Mitchell, touchdown Texas! Aggression and execution, 39 yards.
This is 365 Sports, powered by SicEm365.com.
Rashard Smith on the return for the Canes. Catches a seam. Here goes Smith. Would you look at what we got going on in Hard Rock, folks? How about it? 98 yards.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Some pressure. High throw. It's intercepted. Picked off by Cole Bishop. With a minute 35 to go, Robertson makes a huge mistake. And right where they're at now, the Utes.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Hanging on to the timeout in the hurry-up. 47 seconds left. Second down, pressure, and it's intercepted. It is intercepted by Jeffrey Bossa, and he's going to return it for a pick six.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Big hitter right out of the break. Audric Estime's going to go the distance. An 80-yard touchdown.
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Snap, pressure, Aguilar, back foot throw, Davis, incomplete, no flags. Tar Heels win.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go on this Wednesday. It is the middle of the week where you still can reflect back on what happened, the evidence from last weekend, and also look forward to what's happening today and also into the weekend. We'll have Mark Daniels from UCF, the voice of, on the quarterback situation with Plumlee out. And then also check in with a good friend of ours, Jed Drenning, West Virginia Pitt, Backyard Brawl. He will join us today on the show, among other guests that we have. And it's great to have you with us every day on 365 Sports. And Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, I'm David Smoak. All right, so if you look at the first couple of weeks of the Big 12, look at what we have. The best win, if it's not Texas, Alabama, which it most likely to me, there's no question it was, which game or first 2 weeks perhaps had the best win other than UT in their win in Tuscaloosa?
That's tough. I'm very biased on that one. I think FSU over LSU was a big win. I think Miami over A&M.
I was talking about the Big 12.
Oh, Big 12. Sorry. The Big 12 was the best win. I don't know. There haven't been a lot of slobber knockers yet. I mean, the TCU had a very prominent loss, but I don't know who's had a big win yet.
Yep, I know. Yeah. Craig?
I think it's a situation where there's not really a lot of great candidates to choose from here. I mean, through 2 weeks, I guess Kansas over Illinois would possibly be one of those.
I agree.
Outside of that, though,
it's been
few
kind
and
of
far between. I mean, there's not been a lot of big games for one. And there's just not a lot of those that they've won, those types of big games. I mean, Texas Tech having the opportunity against Oregon, Baylor having the opportunity against Utah, Iowa State having the opportunity against Iowa, West Virginia against Penn State. You know what? Cincy over Pittsburgh.
There you go.
Although I'm not sure how good Pittsburgh is, though. I mean, that's the thing is I don't know how good they are, but as far as a name goes.
At Pittsburgh, too.
Yeah, that would be one. And the rivalry factor there, I think the fact that Cincinnati's not getting a whole lot of respect, at least early on, that one I think would have to be thrown in there as well. Houston over UTSA, even though I'm not sure how good UTSA is, and I don't know that Houston's all that good either. I mean, let's be honest about the situation. There's really not appearing to be many great teams or teams that are potentially going to be great. I think you look at it right now, Texas is clearly the most impressive team as far as what they've done because they beat Alabama. Kansas State is steady, and we know and we think they're going to be very good along the way. But and what they've done has been good. It's just that they haven't had like the big marquee game to sit there and really show themselves to the world, right? But we assume that they're good, and we think they're good based on what we've seen. And then Oklahoma, we think is better than they were last year, which is not saying a ton, but they seem to be better and seem to have a bit of a different swagger about them. And then beyond that, I think it's a huge question mark about who's who and kind of how you all put it together. And I think there's even questions about Oklahoma still, and there's still questions about K-State. But, yeah, I think Texas and then K-State, you feel really good about that. And then, for me, I think Oklahoma probably in that 3 spot. But honestly, I think it's just a huge gob of just teams that are sitting right there.
And, Smoak, your question kind of brings up a larger issue that I wonder when the scheduling, of course, there's going to be more teams, so they're not going to be able to avoid this, really. The Big 12 has done this thing where – they don't get into the conference season until the first 3 weeks are over. And, very rarely have they played early conference games.
Like this weekend with TCU and Houston.
Yeah, exactly.
A week early.
It's a week early. And the other conferences tend to sometimes play conference games early, like right off the bat, or like that are big rivalries, or maybe middle, like not the biggest rivalry of the year, but each team's second biggest game of the year might be the first one out of the gate. And then when you have Baylor and Utah played week 2, and that should have been a good non-conference game. It wound up not being as big of a deal, probably nationwide as it could have been because Baylor lost the week before, but the Big 12 maybe needs to start doing what the other conferences do.
They used to.
Have some big marquee games up there at the front.
I don't know what year it was. It was in the 90s. Texas Tech, I think, and Nebraska opened up a year to start the year. Tommy Frazier in Nebraska back in the mid-90s. And so there have been games, and I think that's a good idea. Slide one in or 2 or 5 in the first couple of weeks. And, Craig, you brought it up. Houston and TCU, a conference game that will be coming up this weekend. Dana Holgerson against Sonny Dykes, and 2 teams that have a loss on their schedule. TCU, of course, helped launch Deion and Colorado, and then also Houston with the loss last week to Rice.
Yeah, and so Houston, I mentioned having, I guess, one of those nicer wins on paper, just name-wise against UTSA, but then turning right around and getting beat by Rice is not a good look. So I don't know how good they really are. They could very well be 0-2. They're not. They're 1-1. But yeah, that's one of those teams that you could place them in a lot of different places up and down the, anywhere from, I guess if you wanted to, like 4 to 14. Although I think they're far more closer to 14 than they are to 4. And you could do the same with a lot of other teams at this point. I mean, it's a situation where you're doing power rankings, and it's hard to kind of separate the majority of the conference. So we'll get to see some separation. I mean, starting this weekend, I don't know if that'll be the case so much, but we will at least get one conference game in, and we'll see TCU, Houston, and then it's off to the races, and we'll get to see the whole shebang moving forward, which I'm very much looking forward to.
More than half the conference is 2-0. I know that there are some hickeys on some of the resumes, and obviously UCF and what happens with them now, with Plumlee out for what will be 2 or 3 weeks based on what Gus Malzahn and also has been reported. But I think Cincinnati's winning at Pittsburgh, winning that game. They opened up with a blowout of Eastern Kentucky because they were one of those schools when everyone looked at it. Now they have Miami, Ohio, but then they have Oklahoma in their first Big 12 game in a couple of weeks. They're entertaining Oklahoma. UCF, of course, gets to open up their Big 12 at home and among others. But I would think Cincinnati, to me, is one because of that win at Pittsburgh relative to what we find out about Pittsburgh. But the fact they beat Pittsburgh on the road, to me, was very impressive. All right, now, if you look around the landscape of college football, there have been some games that obviously the opening week, that FSU-LSU game that turned into a kind of a second-half blowout, Alabama and Texas, where Texas pretty much came back and blew the doors off of them, and they did because they were better 90% of the night. Has anybody like Georgia's played a couple of teams they're supposed to keep winning? Is there somebody other than Colorado? And I guess you can include Texas because they were just outside the top 10 now. But is there somebody else besides Colorado that is nothing's going to meet what Colorado's done, at least not yet, anyone else in the country outside of Colorado that you think has been, oh, well, let's kind of watch what they're doing. These guys are going to be a part of this, and it might be for a long time.
I think Miami. I think that. And look, maybe A&M's not as much better than they were last year, but I've watched, the majority of both the games they've played this year, and they definitely look like they're playing better football than they did a year ago. They still have issues that they haven't fixed yet, but they're playing better, especially on offense. But yeah, I think Miami, because if you watched Miami at all last year, it was awful to watch them. It was not, it was not anything. Like, it was the farthest cry in the 20 years of far cries from their glory days that you'd ever seen. And then the other day, they really, really good. I would say Miami. Got to stand up and notice them a little bit. And then not everybody's gotten to play their signature game yet. I don't think that, I'm very high on Notre Dame because of Sam Hartman, but, NC State is their best win out of the three so far. So I'm not ready to say that they're going to roll into the CFP.
Wait a minute. NC State has been a problem in the ACC.
Yeah, they have been. But they're also transitioning to quarterback and all the different things. So, I think NC State's got a great coaching staff. I don't know who they are yet. And I know that they lost to Notre Dame. So I would say Miami is probably the one that's right there after Colorado and they're better than we thought.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's the ACC, but it's Duke. I think Duke being 2-0 and the win they had over Clemson, that put them, up into the top 25, and that's where they're sitting right now. And I think there's a lot of people very optimistic about, Mike Elko and what he's going to continue to do there. So, yeah, for me, it would be Duke based on what we've seen so far. But if you look at the rankings, I mean, there's not a lot of other choices. I mean, a lot of it is sort of the status quo, and even the Oregon States of the world. I mean, that's not a surprise that they're there. They're supposed to be there after what we saw last year and the off seasons that they had. So I don't really consider them in that category. So if it's somebody that is unexpected that's hanging around right now in the rankings club that you maybe are surprised to see, then surprise probably not the right word. But yeah, Duke would be the team that I think's been able to make a little bit of a name for itself or garner a little bit more attention than expected, at least through 2 weeks. And it's just 2 weeks. I mean, we have yet to see the bulk, but yeah, it'd be them.
Don't they also seem to have some staying power? That doesn't mean they can't lose 3 in a row somewhere, but they have the style of play and who they are. By the way, on the chat room, some of the games and these are the ones we did bring up, but sometimes we slip and forget, and you can help remind us. The Florida State win over LSU, Kansas beating Illinois among as far as the Big 12. A couple of you brought that up. Cincinnati over Pittsburgh, Tim saying was solid. Cincinnati as far as the U.S. mail on the team that kind of, whoa. And then Kansas is, you know what, they've just kind of now they're supposed to win. That doesn't mean they're supposed to win 10, but now when they win, is there ever, when they win now, it's like, damn, Kansas won. No, I mean, if they were to beat Texas in a couple of weeks and we know about but when they win now, I'm like, okay, Kansas won.
Yeah. I'll also throw out, and Tim Salinas mentioned Cameron Ward and Wazoo. That was a huge win for them against Wisconsin. They controlled the game the whole time. There was nothing fluky about it. They went and they popped Wisconsin and made a statement. And you could hear Jake Dykert after the game was like, we're a Power 5 team. These are Power 5 athletes. And you could hear that motivation of, I think quite often we've mentioned it, we feel bad for Oregon State and Washington State. We don't think about being a player or a coach in that team that wakes up in the morning and the rest of the college football world tells you that because of something completely out of your control, that you're no longer what you are.
Yeah, it sucks. It really, really does. U.S. Mail, Oklahoma has always played big games early for quite some time. This year's the exception because that series with Georgia, of course, was pushed back because of the SEC and the big realignment and expansion next week. And obviously, I think we know who would have won that game, but it would have been nice next year. But we know that Georgia's really, really good. But, yeah, they've always had one of those games early, like Texas has had, and a few other schools as well. Yeah, the Big 12, they are the Tech game against Oregon, the game in Waco last week with Utah. You have to win those games. Neither one did, and then you look and you're like, okay, all right. Doesn't mean they're like, whoa, but at least those games are the ones that, to me, you have to win, and you have to win more than you do.
Yeah, I mean, kudos for bringing up Washington State. I think they absolutely deserve a mention, the Wisconsin game, as far as being, some of the more impressive wins. Cam Ward is from Texas, and, what a story for him, starting off at a tiny school and then getting the opportunity to go big. And he's done a great job the last season plus now. And, they are definitely one to watch. He's fun to watch. And I expect we'll be talking about them a lot more. But, being part of the Earl Campbell Award and tracking Texas guys, he's somebody that every week I'm like, he's got a chance to be on the list because of the types of performances that he's put up in Wisconsin. Quite frankly, not the most fun start. Our buddy Tanner Mordecai, not the cleanest start. The part about his game is he could turn the ball over, and it's not always, great. And I think that they've hit a couple stumbling blocks early that just thinking, Luke Fickell and here's Mordecai and this new offense and Phil Luongo and Big Ten's not ready, all these different things. And, I'm very interested to see how they continue to get better. But that was a really good win for Washington State and, a rough loss there for Wisconsin, who's now 1-1. But, as far as the Big 12 thing goes, I also don't want to make it sound like we're like rooting for the conference to, I know we want them to be relevant and but it's not a race of like standings of like them versus the ACC
but
versus
have to win those games.
Right. For national respect and all of that, and for the sake of the teams that are going to be in the rankings, getting the benefit of the doubt or getting the rightful bump they deserve when they win big games. Yeah, you need everybody around you to be respected and to be, in the spotlight and to be shown in a good way to prop up everybody else. So when you have these big games, they're even bigger. It's not. Don't want to make it sound like how does the conference like overtake the ACC or anything like that. That's not what we're going for. But it's been a very interesting and also kind of disappointing couple of weeks, I think, for the start of the league. Outside of the Texas win, we pointed out there's been some missed opportunities there for sure, and some teams that have taken losses in 2 weeks that you're like, they could have been contenders, and they still might, just not for the highest prize.
A perfect cracker, keep underestimating us, Smokey, and I was like, who? And he said Oklahoma. I don't know if I've estimated them. I hope I'm wrong. I'd love to see Oklahoma. I know a lot of people would not, but I always have liked Oklahoma as a lifelong Nebraska fan, that history, the tradition, which is pretty much gone, but I don't know if I'm underestimating them. They have not yet. SMU 28-11. Okay, I was when it was 73-0. I don't care who they were playing. If it would have been a junior college last year, they couldn't have scored 73 against themselves. So I don't know if I've underestimated them, but we'll find out soon enough. They have some games coming up here pretty soon where they'll be tested. TJ Scott, Colorado should be 2. They have played 2 Power 5 teams. Florida State, Texas, Ohio State, Oregon, Kansas, Penn State, and Duke have all had wins over a Power 5 team. Georgia and Michigan have not played anybody, and then he went on to continue more of his thought as well. But we appreciate the Scott from the opinion from everybody.
Yeah, I think actually instead of ranking teams in the first 2 weeks, you should just wait until
they do with the one that matters.
Yeah.
They do with the College Football Playoff Committee. We can complain about them. We can discuss them. We can wonder about them. And that's why they wait until 5 or 6 or so games are in the can, or 7 games, where the AP poll and the coaches poll comes out before the season begins. And you could almost pick those without even knowing anything about college football.
And I think Colorado plays Colorado State this week, and then they get into what is the okay, let's see how fast they really did turn this around. And I'm not trying to knock TCU. They won that game 45-42. It was a close game. Could have gone either way. But once Colorado gets into this next part of their schedule, we're going to see, can they go toe-to-toe with Caleb Williams and Bo Nix and DJU.
From what I've seen with what they've done the first 2 weeks, no matter what, even though Nebraska's very average at best, that game with Oregon will be a hell of a football game. Look, I think they have enough weapons to play with anybody.
If you had asked me, how everybody says they make the schedule, it's like they made the Pac-12 schedule for the last year of Colorado, knowing that they were going to leave before they did, even though this was made, well in advance, because Oregon, USC, and then they get Arizona State, Stanford off, UCLA, Oregon, Arizona, Washington State, and Utah. They've gotten,
but they were going to play most of them anyway.
Yeah, but it's an interesting the way it runs.
I think it's
them.
great that they're going to play someone that here in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I do too. Really but it's going to be tough, and so we'll see. But I think they're going to hang with everybody. But before we start putting him at number 2 in the country, let's see.
No. What he's saying is at number 2 based on what we see and who they've beaten in the first 2 weeks, which we know the rankings are never like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is like, if we're doing it deservedly so, but that's not how it works and not how it's ever worked. But yeah, I mean, if it did work that way, they'd be there. And look, if they keep winning, they'll be there in no time, because I think you've already seen that the media loves Colorado. And I think just based on what we've seen, they're also a very good team and deserving of a lot of that attention. So keep winning, and they will be in the top 10 in the blink of an eye, and they will be going higher and higher and higher. I don't think there's any disrespect card to play here. You know, if the rankings don't shake out exactly how you want to, I don't think any media is trying to hold down Colorado or not shine a light on them, given how much we've seen media scrambling to be around Colorado as much as possible. So, yeah, if it worked that way, they'd be up there. It doesn't, so they just have to keep winning, and they win a couple more weeks in a row, and they're going to be right there in the mix of the entire deal, right there near the top, because that's the trajectory that they're on right now.
The fact that Fox is going to be there for a Colorado game for the 3rd consecutive week on their big noon kickoff show, 3 consecutive weeks, is how much power and the numbers that they put up in their games the first 2 weeks, TCU and then Nebraska. You hit it, man. It's like you go with a number. If you're at a poker table or you're at the craps table or whatever, you go with the heat. You go with it. And right now, and by the way, Georgia will be fun this weekend. Somebody on the chat room just mentioned that they're playing against South Carolina this week, which could be kind of a nice little interesting scene. They probably end up winning big, but Surfer Boy 3000, this young dog in Athens can still hunt at an elite level. You guys will see that tomorrow. We are excited to play an SEC opponent this weekend. I think they probably would like to get tested.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody's doubting Georgia. It's just that there's been nothing, as far as nationally, a big storyline for them other than just being Georgia. I mean, they played UT Martin and Ball State. That's not really been anything to write home about. If you're a fan of them, it is. If you're an observer, then sure, you acknowledge it. But, yeah, I mean, this week there will certainly be more attention on the back-to-back national champs and the favorites to win it for a 3rd time in a row. But, yeah, they just haven't played a name opponent yet. They'll get that opportunity this weekend. And I would imagine they take care of business, but who knows? I mean, it's the SEC, it's college football, it's any given Saturday, all that jazz. But, yeah, nobody's forgotten about Georgia. It's just that we knew going in this was going to be part of their deal. Their schedule is soft. I mean, it's not, their fault because of the Oklahoma game getting canceled. It was not supposed to be this way, but once that happened, it definitely brought their schedule down a notch to where instead of playing Oklahoma, you're playing an opponent that not nearly as many people care about. So now you get that schedule lit up a little bit, and we're going to hear plenty about Georgia. But I have thought that. I have thought, like, man, I'm not even hearing anything about them. Or, like, did Georgia play last weekend? I didn't even know, because it's just, not a game that really anybody's focusing on whatsoever. But
and they did look.
By the way, Georgia's 15-3 in the last 18 games, I think, against South Carolina.
And they did look a little bored. The first couple games,
boring, yeah.
Because look, I'm not like. I think that's because you're that good and you're ready to like roll out this. That's part of that. It's like you're ready to roll out the title defense, and everybody's watching the team. That you beat 65-7 because they're playing Deion Sanders.
Right.
So all these things, the hype around Georgia hasn't gotten to build yet. I think it will. This week in South Carolina is interesting to me insofar as, look, if the quarterback at South Carolina, Spencer Rattler, can get hot, then he can keep the team hanging with anybody. But we've seen South Carolina against North Carolina the first week give up like 8 or 9 sacks. So you kind of wonder about his safety against the Georgia defensive line, which is deeper and much more accomplished than UNC one.
If he can be prone throughout the game, then at least can maybe do some things. By the way, last year Georgia hammered the Gamecocks 48-7. So, hey, got a chat room comment from Paxton. I agree with you. There doesn't seem to be any bangers. Paul and Craig, what are bangers?
There's what's the English for bangers and mash? There's that. Was that sausage and potatoes? There's that.
Bangers to me are something big, right?
Yeah, it's a big time game.
Taylor Swift tour.
Yeah, there's the Taylor Swift tour. We probably go a lot of different ways here, but no, I mean it's a big game, and those aren't in the cards for this weekend. There would need to be some upsets to really create the type of electric reactions and oh my gosh moments, and I mean we'll still get those. We'll get those just with the number dozens of games that are on, some crazy things will happen. But yeah, in terms of like what we, got excited about for in week number 1 or in week number 2 last week when there was a Texas Alabama on, for example, that's not the case this week. A very light schedule. It'll still be fun, but it doesn't have that big banger game at night or a plethora of them to choose from throughout the day, which is unfortunate because that's always a really fun weekends. But yeah, it's just very, very middle of the road this week. Not a lot of great ranked versus ranked games. As a matter of fact, I don't even know how many there even are. Very few, if any. So, yeah, it's not the biggest week, but sometimes those are the craziest weeks because you're not expecting it to be crazy.
There might be something that
hopefully
goes,
that's the case.
By the way, on the chat room, the comment from let me see here. Who was it that but do these guys ever talk about Kansas? And my response to you was, are you watching today's show because we brought up Kansas earlier in the show that they are off to a nice start, and they are 2-0, and it's now to the point that when they win, it's not like, oh, damn, Kansas won their 1 or 2 games for the year. No, it's fun. They're good. They were really nice to watch last year, the run they made. And so, yes, we do and have brought up the Jayhawks, and I'm sure we'll bring them up even more along the way.
As a matter of fact, this is going back a couple weeks, but we had a question of if you were going to take – all things being equal, if you were going to take one quarterback to win you a game in the fourth quarter of the Big 12, I think we all picked Jayden Daniels. So
I think all of us absolutely. There was a couple, but now, I think Jayden Daniels if you needed to go 75 yards and you wanted somebody that could pass and run you to key first downs and keep the clock either running or not, I would think he would be the one that I would want running the offense. With all due respect, that since that time, what we saw with Quinn Ewers and what he did at Alabama.
No, but like he is one of the most fun players in the conference because if you keep if Kansas is close or ahead in the game, and it's like, that fourth quarter where nobody's worried about the rules anymore. I say the rules, like the strategy anymore. It's like just do it by whatever means necessary. Then that's the guy I want. 2 minutes left, like let's go make some crazy plays. Yeah, I want Daniels. I want him bad.
Yeah.
So
I acknowledge their win over Illinois was a really good win over the last couple of days. And so if you want us to talk or anybody else about certain things, just ask, which I think you might have been just trying to do, is just wondering if we were ever talking about Kansas. I don't think it's necessarily aggressive. Maybe it was. Either way, just ask, and we can eventually get around to it at some point. But I think we all believe very much in Lance Leipold and their direction, and the fact that it's not a shocker if you see a final score with Kansas on top. That's where they've gotten themselves to now, and you almost expect them to be on top of a couple scoreboards that are upsets throughout the year based on what they've got at their disposal right now. So, big believers in Lance Leipold, big believers in Jayden Daniels. And I think for me, I can't speak for everybody else, but I'm just hesitant to hype up anybody through 2 games that's not like clearly a really good team, and because there's just a lot of teams like a Kansas that look pretty good, but like how good are they? Like I don't want to sit there and go like they're going to Dallas or they're going to Arlington just yet, because I need to see them play some Big 12 teams. I need to see Texas and Oklahoma and TCU and Tech and everybody else. I need to see a couple Big 12 teams play each other to get more of a sense of sort of where everybody sits. And I think maybe it's like we talked about at the top of the show, where they all kind of sit in the same place.
Which is kind of how it was trying to pick the poll.
Yeah, I think that's sort of the year that we're in, and until we get more evidence, it's really hard to just, go ahead and put folks into categories. But, they're very much in the mix right now, and I expect that they will continue to be.
Northeast Ohio Boise State fan. Wait a minute. Northeast Ohio Boise State fan. Bangers is a pro wrestling term for a really good match. Barry Crawford. I love bangers and mash.
Yeah, banger. Yeah, you had a banger match. Absolutely, I've seen that term a lot. So same applies to college football or to sports. So just a banger matchup, a big time game, and I think you have a lack of those this weekend on paper. But certainly you could have some games you don't expect turn into those. But we don't have the big prime time, sexy games. Looking over, I see Paul looking over at our pick'ems. You can tell by the pick'ems this week. There's some games that are notable, but they're not, massive crossover non-con games like they're fine. They're just not gigantic top 5, top 10 matchups.
It's a complete unanimous vote from left to right.
That was a test.
Oh, well, but it might be anyway.
No, but I think some, but like BYU and Arkansas is going to be one of our picks, and
do you have
Pitt and
Kansas State, Missouri up there?
No, because I don't think it's as intriguing as the other. Like there's the chance to swing either way. Like I put North Carolina and Minnesota up there because I'm curious to see how UNC bounces back when they play a Minnesota team that is going to be really tough on defense and punch you in the mouth. And, they have App State again, like putting a charge into them. So last week. So we'll see. But that's why we put them on there. Washington and Michigan State was much better, at least potentially before everything happened with Mel Tucker.
God, that could be it, man.
But
that could be
you could have a
win
one for the Gipper scenario. But I think
who's the Gipper?
Mel Tucker. If the players are behind him, I don't know what's going on there. And then South Carolina and Georgia was, that's Georgia's first chance to lose this season. So we'll see.
They've had 2 chances to lose.
Not really.
No, I mean, all right. So we appreciate your time.
Here's Amanda's niece. So I guess she's my niece now. But my niece Bella goes to Ball State, and if I had Amanda,
they're the Cardinals, right?
Yeah. If we texted them and I said, "Oh man, it's a bummer you lost to Georgia," she'd be like, "In what?" They
lacrosse.
They
swimming.
Yeah.
Scotty B, Iowa State could be an upset alert. Could be on upset alert, just like TCU and Oklahoma State. I don't know, but appreciate that. Also, Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, was asked about has he had time to enjoy any of the success, and he said something to the effect, no, because Santa is always having to deliver the goods. In other words, there's still much more to do. And he's right. And you cannot sit and rest on your laurels. You can enjoy it, but that's a great quote from him in part of the press conference or whatever it was, either today or earlier this week. All right, when we come back, we'll break. We have much to get to. We'll also hear from Mark Daniels, voice of UCF, on the injury to Plumlee and what is next. I had a couple of you contact me with a direct message. UCF, I think, _realist, gave me a name to watch for. We'll hear from him and so much more. This is 365 Sports. Waco Custom Marketplace, your hometown grocery store, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. Fresh mahi-mahi for $13.25 a pound. Smoked pork tenderloin, $4.50 a pound. Country-style ring sausage, $3.25 a pound. Drumsticks for 99 cents a pound. Bone-in and boneless pork butt from $1.75 to $2.05 a pound. Tri-tip at almost $5 a pound. T-bone steaks at $9.50 a pound, and porterhouse steaks, basically the same thing, but a little bit better, at $9.85 a pound. These are the products that right now, the specials at Waco Custom Marketplace. If you are tailgating for the game against Long Island or any time throughout the year here in Waco, but really, if you're around the Central Texas area, and it doesn't have to be a Baylor game, it could be wherever you're going. If you're a Texas fan or an A&M fan or a TCU fan, and you're going somewhere else. Waco Custom Marketplace. They have the charcoal, they have the pellet fuel, marinades and seasonings, and so much more. Cold beer, cold wine, soft drinks, what you want, energy drinks. Waco Custom Marketplace at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
During Jeep Adventure Days, Alan Samuels in Waco is celebrating with an incredible line of 2023 models like the Grand Cherokee, Renegade, Wrangler, and Gladiator. Come see what Alan Samuels can offer you and your family and find the Jeep SUV that fits your lifestyle.
Looking to connect with Baylor alums in your area? Baylor Alumni can help. Looking to host a watch party in your city? Baylor Alumni can get you started. Want to step out in your community and serve with other alums? Baylor Alumni is your connection with the university and each other. Let's get started. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
one size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one size fits all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Pioneer Steel and Pipe opened their doors in 1943, and they have never wavered with their focus on great product and customer service, relationships with a handshake, making sure you, the customer, is satisfied. Their new facility is now twice the size, allowing new inventory, higher quantities, and in a much more organized fashion. In addition to the long lengths in tubing, angles, channels, rods, and flat, Pioneer Steel and Pipe now offers several shorter, more convenient lengths of material already cut. Their 2,500 square foot showroom has over 1,000 new products in stock, new welding supplies, hardware, quickcrete, and do-it-yourself components for any project, whether you are a professional contractor or weekend warrior. The new facility is designed to make your loading experience faster and more efficient with easy drive lanes around the building and much more room to get your trailer loaded. Our location may have changed, but our values haven't, and our relationship with customers goes much farther than just business. Pioneer Steel and Pipe on Loop 340 and Highway 6 and just east of I-35 in Waco.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Tim Brando. It's been a while. Tim will join us in the 5 o'clock hour. His schedule, of course, has been condensed because of broadcast. In fact, he and Spencer Tillman have the game this weekend, the TCU game at Houston, so we'll have Tim Brando on the show. Also, yesterday as we were closing out the show, the NCAA released some statements that they are concerned that there have been what appears to be even like very violent threats against those, or at least maybe the entire group, or those who are making decisions on transfers, because so many transfers have been held up this year. And by the way, I mean, it was like an open door. And so they put some parameters. You could disagree one particular scenario to the other, but they have received some sort of death threats or violent threats, which is taking it just a little bit too far.
Yeah, a little bit too far. Although I did not like what they said about we didn't appreciate North Carolina's statements. Like, look, you're not getting these because of Mac Brown and Bubba Cunningham and the president at UNC. I mean, you're getting it because there's crazy people who do crazy things. Like that's why. And have one thing in their life and get really mad. That's why you're getting them. So to kind of throw it back on UNC is, I think, a little bit reckless on the NCAA's part. But yeah, that's unfortunate that it's taken that route. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have anything to add to this story. Yeah, it's college football, and there's crazy fans, and some of them take it way too far. I think that's clearly the case here with North Carolina fans. I mean, which we don't even know the facts of what even this is. We just know a very vague, generalized of, like, there's apparently threats. There's some of them more serious. Beyond that, like, who that went towards. We kind of know, but not really. So, yeah, I mean, whatever happened and however ugly it got, that doesn't need or doesn't have a place in sports or in college football, and that needs to be handled, with whatever measures are needed, depending on how serious the threat was. But, I think that's part of just the fanaticism of this sport. The same sport that there's a whole documentary about a guy killing trees, right? I mean, there's a whole, thing about that and various other chapters, dark chapters in college football or crazy fans or whatever. And this one you've got to take serious, but, over an eligibility issue, I think that's pathetic is what it really is. It's not like, I think whoever's sitting there taking it that serious is just really pathetic.
It wasn't just North Carolina fan. I know that probably they mentioned North Carolina. They were disappointed, but they could be fan bases from Colorado and Florida State.
Well, we don't know. Like I said, we don't really know what the real truth is. But, yeah, it's unfortunate. However, it's occurring.
Deion Sanders, I butchered the quote. Craig told me that as we hit the break. Here's the actual quote. Santa don't have time as far as to enjoy what's going on. He got to deliver the gifts. He don't have time to enjoy his cookies. That's all he gets. I ain't got time for that. I've got to keep it going.
Yeah, I think also Deion is very good at living in the moment of that actual win and moving it along. So, yeah, you don't want to wind up like Urban Meyer, where by his even own admission that they won the national title and he didn't enjoy it at all. Like he was miserable and angry and out there recruiting. Like they won. He said thank you to the team, and then they're all celebrating, and he's calling recruits 2 minutes after, and didn't get to do it. But yeah, I think he's pretty good about living in the moment. It seems like.
I mean, I think that's a fun quote. That's why I wanted to point out that there's a little bit more to it than he's just talking about cookies, because it's the delivery of it and the way he phrased it. I think was fun and got the point across better of, he's soaking it up while he can, but like he says, he doesn't have time to stop down and enjoy the cookies. He's not sitting there celebrating Nebraska and just sitting and living in Nebraska. He's on to the next game and take care of business there and then be on to the next game after that. They sat and just dwelled on TCU and just ate the chocolate chip cookies or whatever, however you would want to phrase that. Then maybe the Nebraska outcome's a bit different. They've obviously enjoyed the success. They've soaked it up. They've used it to their benefit, marketed it, promoted it, and, are recruiting off of it and all those different types of things. But you do have to keep moving forward, because if you go lose 3 games in a row, well, you're still going to be popular because Deion's the head coach, but it's not the same as when you're winning games. And I think they're handling both really well right now. They're soaking it up, but they're also focused on the next game. And they know that they've got a huge target on their back. So, yeah, he's not stopping down and just enjoying that they're 2-0. It's on to the next house, and it's on to delivering more gifts and more wins. And I think that's a fun way of phrasing that.
When we come back, the voice of UCF, Mark Daniels, and what's next for them. The quarterback change with Plumlee out. This is 365 Sports. IdealMRI.com. Dr. Rob Maxey and his partners have a great business for you, the customer. If you have an injury, a muscle, a ligament, something that is bothering you so much, it's basically shut you down. You hear about ACLs and MCLs and rotator cuff and much more. It could be even that or more. It could be something that's in your back or your neck. There's a chance that if you get injured and your doctor is discussing if an x-ray doesn't do the job, or they haven't even done that, but they want an MRI, Ideal MRI in the Central Texas Marketplace in Waco, just off of I-35, can get you an MRI. State-of-the-art equipment, state-of-the-art technology. Their MRI machine is fantastic, and it only will cost you $497 or less. $497 or less every single time. It won't jump up. $497 or less right now, and it has been ever since I started endorsing what they do many years ago. IdealMRI.com.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages. And if you can't make it to Riverbend, DoorDash is available to bring it to you. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
This is 365 Sports.
The Sikkim 365 app is brought to you by Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. Come by, let's be friends.
We will hear from Mark Daniels, voice of UCF. Jed Drenning covers West Virginia. They have the backyard brawl with Pittsburgh as a couple of guests that we feature today on 365 Sports. And we appreciate also Jack McKenzie, Levi, and Emery, everyone that's a part of what we do on an everyday basis. And Mark Daniels joins us, voice of UCF on 365 Sports. It's always great to have you, Mark. Hope you're doing well. I know UCF with a dramatic win against Boise State, but the news about Plumlee out for a handful of weeks. Thank you for your time. What is the quarterback room like with him out for whatever time it will be?
Well, UCF turns to somebody that's got experience. Timmy McClain, ironically, his last start was on the field of the bounce house at FBC Morgan Stadium a couple of years ago. Whereas a freshman for South Florida, he led them down the field on what would have been a game-winning drive, and the last play the ball comes out, fumbles into the end zone, and UCF survived that game. So Timmy's got 9 starts. He's played 11 football games in South Florida, transferred to UCF last year, got a chance to get familiar with the UCF program, understood a little bit about Darren Hinshaw, the new offensive coordinator's vision from an offensive standpoint. Darren was asked Sunday night when UCF got back from Boise about how Timmy has picked up on the system. Darren talked about him really getting more comfortable in the months leading up to the season. But now the lights go back on as a starting quarterback for him. I think the good thing is, again, he's got some experience as a starter, and he's got a lot of talent around him to help him get reacclimated, I think. And you take no game for granted. UCF's got a Villanova team. It's 2-0, but a game that, I think may be really good for Timmy to get under his belt before the Big 12 season begins.
Mark, you mentioned that you feel like he's good to go in that. Do you think that they have been tested yet, though, to know that he is going to be able to withstand the Big 12 onslaught the next few weeks?
Well, I mean, I don't know if anybody says he's good to go to handle that. You got to go play. But Timmy was he was 40-5 as a high school quarterback. He won a state championship at the highest level. He was a guy that had a number of options. He I think chose South Florida because he felt there was an opportunity to play early, and went there. And then comes to a UCF team that's got a number of either guys he played on the same high school team with, or a number of Orlando area players that are familiar with how successful he was as a high school quarterback. Now, again, it's a different situation, but I think Timmy brings a number of things that fits for what UCF wants to do. He can run the football well. John Rice, a little bit different runner than Timmy. He's got a great deep ball, but now you've got to go and see how you handle those different situations on the road in hostile environments, different type of defenses and everything. But, I mean, the cliche of next man up, someone's got to play quarterback, and I think UCF feels comfortable with someone that has experience. Dylan Risk is going to be the backup. He's a true freshman that UCF felt really good about when he chose to come to the Knights. Another guy that won a state championship last year, playing at an excellent school as well. So, with Plumlee out, do they adjust the game plan? Probably a little bit just because of the experience of it, but they're not going to change this offense significantly. I think it's a case of, Timmy knows the offense. Now let's go execute, and then let's see how he performs.
So, Mark, take us into your perspective of watching that unfold last weekend. I mean, what a great game as far as just thrilling factor. Knew that going to Boise was going to be tough against a program like that and being on the road. And sure enough, the Knights had their hands full. The walk-off field goal from Colton Boomer. Just what was the atmosphere like, and what was just the kind of anxiety I guess, as far as calling that game and watching the ups and downs?
Well, it's interesting. The hype goes back before the season about playing that game. Boise came to Orlando for Gus's first game, and that's the game that we didn't kick off until almost 10 o'clock and didn't finish up until after 1 because of a heavy storm. And there was the anticipation, and look, I get it for Boise. They're the program for 25 years that's been winning a ton of football games and trying to get into one of those bigger leagues. So I don't think it was animosity towards UCF. I just think they saw it as, hey, that's a school that got to where we're trying to go for years. And so there was that angle to the story. And then going to play on the blue turf, and that place is a hard place to play. Only 15 losses dating back to 2000. The atmosphere was great. And from a standpoint, it wasn't a great football game. It just became a tough physical game. And it's one of those games that as it develops for UCF that a lot of things are going wrong. You get 2 passes, one hits the receiver in the chest to the 3-yard line, they pick off. Another one, Davon Baker, UCF's best receiver in the end zone, never drops the ball. Ball comes off his hands, an easy touchdown, and they've got a guy in position for interception. UCF goes for it on 4th and 1 inside the red zone, and somebody misses a block and you stop. So a lot of things are going wrong for you, and yet you're finding a way to hang around because the defense is playing well. They have their starting quarterback go out because of cramps. A redshirt freshman comes in after getting sacked on back-to-back plays. He looks like Joe Montana the next drive as he has some success. And then we gamble on a blitz, and a kid gets open, he breaks the tackle and scores. But you look up and you go, okay, so we had the lead, now we lost the lead, and now here we are with less than 2 minutes to go, and what can you do? I felt good that Colton Boomer, with a realistic range, was going to make the field goal. He hit 3 before. The question is, can you drive down the field where their crowd is loud? And it was interesting because the old theory of take what the defense gives you. They chose to rush 3 and drop a bunch in coverage, assuming UCF was going to throw. Well, UCF said, if you're going to give us 10, 12 yards, we'll run the ball. There was enough time to do that, and with the clock stopping under 2 minutes on first downs, it allowed UCF to not really have to panic. They did convert a big pass play to Kobe Hudson for 12 yards, but for the most part ran the ball. Unfortunately, one of those run plays had John Rice Plumlee get hit, and the question about why no targeting and how he slid, led to the injury, but then got in position, and then the 40-yard field goal to win it. Really hard place to play. Respect a lot about what Boise does. It's a good team. They may be 0-2. I think they're going to win a lot of football games. But to me, I always said, that was the most important game of the year, just because I think it laid a foundation. If you won that 2-0, a chance to get to 3-0 this week before you begin conference play in that tough grind. If you lost that game, then you kind of doubt yourself a little bit. Even though it was a 2-point win, I think you're happy with it because the way the game transpired and a lot of things going against you, and you did it on the road at a place where they just don't lose that much.
I believe that if they're in that position again, then that can only help them. The experience, that doesn't mean it'll work, but I just love the great special. I love special teams. I've always been one that really enjoys that under the gun, the clutch moments, even just in a regular game. So, just imagine they're 1-1 rather than 2-0. They should have no problems this week, but what a clutch kick. What was your call like? I wish we could have heard it.
Yeah, Colton Boomer's a great story. The only miss on record is the ball that wasn't supposed to be snapped last year, and a kick that was 60 yards. We sent the kicking unit out there really not even supposed to snap it, and the play clock was going to expire. Somebody snapped it. Colton wasn't even expecting it, and he missed the kick. So, as Gus Malzahn says, on attempts to try to kick it, he's perfect in now 2 years. But he's a great story. He, was a kid that wasn't highly recruited. He went to a kicking camp his junior year and just happened to have someone spot him and said, look, if you want to take this serious, maybe you get a chance to go play college. He walked on at UCF and started kicking last year as a freshman, and has developed into a real talented kicker, great on kickoffs. And, when you hit 4, including a school-tying record 55-yarder in the game winner, you're a big man on campus, even though I think he's about 5'8", 5'8 and a half.
Have you seen anything this year that makes you more confident, less confident than you were starting the year?
No, I think, through 2 games, the sample size for UCF, the Kent State game was a lopsided game. The Boise State game, I think, as we talked, the ability of coming back late, down. I mean, they were 123-0 at home when leading after the third quarter. To come back and win that shows something. I think their line, which to me was going to be a question, their offensive line, not saying it wasn't going to be good. How's that line going to play with 3 new starters? I thought they played really well in the football game against Boise. UCF leads the nation in rushing and offense. Some of that's been with the competition, of Kent State, but I think that line may end up being pretty good. I think from a defensive standpoint, I knew UCF's defensive front was going to be good. They haven't really been tested yet in the secondary. Doesn't mean that they won't be good, but Boise did not have a lot of success going deep. Some of that was, by pressure. Some of it was forcing them to go underneath. So I still will be curious when that happens. That may happen at Kansas State next week. So we'll see about that. But I don't think after 2 games you feel like, wow, they're really struggling in that. And at the same time, I think you need more of a sample size to get an idea about where the strong strengths are. You take Plumlee out, you lose that big playability that he can give you. But at the same time, you're going to help your new quarterback in areas by, talented wide receivers and running backs and hopefully a line. I mean, one thing, and guys, this, your line's going to carry you both offensively and defensively. If UCF's going to win games this year, it's got to be, that they win those battles in the trenches, which I know is going to be challenging when conference play begins. But, if they win this week, they'll take a 3-0 mark to a tough place to play next week and see what happens.
Yeah, it's time, right? They'll get a chance to open up against the defending champions and their home game, the host game, opening Big 12 game at home against Baylor, which I know everybody is looking forward to. Mark, thank you very much. I know you got a tight schedule. Love what you do. Appreciate your time whenever we can get it, and good luck this week.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Appreciate that. Mark Daniels, voice of UCF, the Knights. A 2-0 start. Villanova this week, and then at Kansas State, and then home against Baylor.
They got really fortunate in that game, just given the fact that Plumlee got hurt, but just kind of an ugly game in general, but, thrilling from the standpoint of, being a tight ball game and coming down to the wire. That was, certainly fitting the bill as well. And, good to have good field goal kickers. You don't really appreciate them until you need them, and you don't always need them, but when you do, it's typically a big moment, and that was a big moment for Colton Boomer that he delivered on, and as a result, they're still perfect. But, man, they were very much in the danger zone and looked like they were going to probably lose that game at various points. But, pull one out, and that's just what you got to do sometimes. So on to the next one. They should beat Villanova, and then it's, as you mentioned, the ramp-up of the Big 12 schedule. I just think it's such a bummer that John Rice Plumlee's hurt. That sucks, man. Enjoyed talking to him in the summertime, but you want to see the best players play, and he is clearly their best player. He's their best quarterback, and he's one of the better, or at least more interesting and electric and, playmaking type of guys in the entire league on paper and on screen as well. But, wanted to see him just jump right into Big 12 play and see where they stack up. And we'll get to see that, but minus a very big piece and very important piece for them. And I just hate that. We've seen a lot of injuries already here pretty early on. And as you know, the health factor is going to be as big of a key to who is there at the end of the road as anything else. So hopefully he's back soon.
Yeah, no, I mean, quarterback injuries can change everything. And good luck to McClain and what he's doing this week for UCF. In their game, they should have no problem with Villanova. And then it's Kansas State on the road. I can't wait. The Big 12 with TCU Houston this week. And then eventually we get a bunch of games next week.
The thing with UCF schedules, they got 3 of the first 4 Big 12 games on the road. They go to Kansas State. They come back. They play they play Baylor in the opener. So they go to Manhattan, back to Orlando, and they go to Lawrence and Norman. That's their first month. That could very well be 1-3. I know people probably aren't banking on Baylor beating them in Orlando, but, I mean, who knows now with Plumlee gone? I mean, you don't know. You don't know. We don't know what either team's going to look like here in a couple of weeks. But, yeah, that's a rough road to hoe right out of the gate. So, they're going to get a taste very early, but I know they're entirely ready for it, and that's what they've been wanting to have for a long time now. So, going to be fun.
We will have Tim Brando just after 5 o'clock, and again, Jed Drenning on West Virginia and their game with Pitt coming up in about 45 minutes. Also coming up next, former Baylor wide receiver Ricky Thompson, his Wednesday edition brought to you by Alliance Bank, and this is 365 Sports.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon wrap fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes. Cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links. Fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Arturo Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
This segment with former Baylor wide receiver and Baylor sideline analyst Ricky Thompson is sponsored by Alliance Bank Central Texas, where customers have confidence that their financial needs are in good hands with 2 locations in Waco, on Bosque Boulevard and on Archway Drive off Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com.
Ricky Thompson on Wednesdays in the 4 o'clock hour. He joins all three of us, Craig and Paul. I'm David Smoak on 365 Sports. So as a sideline reporter / analyst, as a former Baylor wide receiver, are you having a bad week?
I think the answer to that would be yes. Yeah, that was disappointing Saturday. We played so much better, I thought, and well, really every area, I think, versus the week before. I don't think there's any question. And I'm not sure if it's not even worse that in this game, I never felt like against Texas State we were really in a position to win the game the way it was going, but this one we were. And against a very good football team with a backup quarterback, and then to let it slip away, that one hurt. Wasn't in a very good mood when I got home that night, so I think everybody just kind of left me alone.
Ricky, what would you say is the problem of a team who finds different ways to lose as opposed to one where you can pinpoint the reason it always loses, like if they can't stop the run? But this Baylor team is, I said yesterday, like playing whack-a-mole. Like as soon as they think they fix one thing, another thing pops up, and that's why they lose a game.
Paul, I think a lot of that leadership, and I'm not knocking these players and saying there's no leaders out there, because if there's anybody that supports them, it's me. But I just think go back to 21 and that season with guys like Terrell and Tyquan Thornton on the offensive side and the offensive line and Jalen Petrie, those guys found a way to win the game. I mean, how many close games did we have that year? You finished 12-2. Mm-hmm. And there were a bunch of games that could have gone either way, and it seems like we ended up winning them all. That were those one-score games, tight games. And I'm just not sure that these guys quite know how to do that. And it's really hard to pinpoint it. I mean, there's so many different areas, I think, that have been a problem in getting over that hump that I don't think you can go to any one item, any one player, not even any one position.
Ricky, could you sense a different pep in the step, a little bit of a different energy? It seemed like they, knew how the Texas State game was and did their best to correct it. Obviously, it didn't show in the result, but it seemed like a team that had a little more feistiness about it. Could you sense that down there, or was that, not really the case from the press box view?
No, absolutely, Craig. I don't think there's any doubt. This Utah front is really, really good. And I didn't think we would run the ball on them based on what I saw the week before, but I thought we were really successful running the ball, had good luck doing so. I thought we really got after them up front. I thought our running backs really ran hard. Dominic Richardson had a heck of a game till he took the lick on his leg with the helmet. Of course, then Sawyer got tweaked an ankle, and he had a couple of good runs, including the touchdown. So, yeah, I thought it was a different football team. I thought the fire was there. I thought they played really hard. I thought they were playing against a really good football team. And to me, I know that Cam Rising wasn't playing, but I also know that Blake Shapen wasn't playing. So I don't think you align that, and you're lined up against the Big 12 champ. Big 12, Pac-12 champion, and absolutely played them toe-to-toe until the fourth quarter.
Sawyer Robertson made some mistakes. I think one pick might have been a broken route or communication issue. And then, of course, there was the deadly pick near the end of the game. Overall, how do you feel being down on the field? I know it's loud, but overall, how did you see him handle his first ever collegiate start?
I thought he handled it fine. I mean, we're talking about a completely inexperienced guy at the college level. The week before, he took his first snap under center ever in a ball game, including junior high and high school. So quite a change for him. And then to get that first start against Utah, as we said, Pac-12 champions 2 consecutive years, I thought he handled it well. I thought his game changed when he hurt his ankle. And I thought that was obvious. The first interception, that ball was to Josh Cameron. I was behind that play and happened to be watching that one pretty closely. I don't know what the call is for the receiver and the quarterback, but if I had my guess, I think Josh slowed his route down. I thought he saw a safety flash and maybe he sat down instead of continuing the route that Sawyer thought he was going to run. So I think maybe you can put that more so on receiver than quarterback. The second one, young guy, I know he was about to take a sack and maybe lose 8 or 9 yards, but in that case, you just eat it. Punt the ball away and try to hold them, because once you throw the pick, they're on the 35-yard line, 30. That was pretty much the ball game.
Ricky, how much can this be a get-right game for Baylor?
Oh, Paul, I don't know. I mean, against a team like Long Island, I'm not knocking Long Island, but this is a team, with all respect to them, we should go in there and dominate this football game. And I don't know how much you get right dominating a team you're supposed to dominate. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think it would be more so if you were coming in and playing a Texas Tech or Houston or a Big 12 opponent, and you really just took it to them and won the football game and won it handily. I think that's a get-right game. I think this is just a game that you've got to win and you need to dominate, or you really continue that negative trend of the way the season's going. So more than get right, I think this is just one that you've got to have and you've got to go dominate. And I think they will, but I also think you have to.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, yeah. If they don't, then I mean, the hot seat's blazing like a 5 alarm fire. But I mean, just how much do you think just getting a win against somebody would help this team's psyche and just kind of everything, Ricky? Not that it would be some massive win, but just to snap the losing streak, to have some guys who are freshmen and younger players playing, just taste a win right before conference play. Do you think that's important, or is that a little bit overblown?
No, I don't think it's overblown at all. Particularly when you've lost 6 in a row.
Yeah.
Going back into last year, I think that is a very valid point. And we could be playing my old high school, Gatesville High School, and get the win and add some momentum. And it's just that feeling after a game of coming into the locker room after win and getting to celebrate a little bit and feel good about yourself for the next week. So I think it goes a long way to beat anybody. So maybe the timing of Long Island coming in is better than even I could think. But I still think it will be better to come in and beat somebody like a Tech to get that really the season on the right track. But right now, we take a win against anybody. It's been a long time, guys, since we felt that. In fact, I can remember the game. It was in Lubbock, and that one felt really good with no idea it would be the last for some time.
Ricky, when does a situation like what they're in right now, even Long Island, whoever they were playing, if they're playing Georgia, but is there a concern about at some point if there's not a beacon of hope or some nice plays made that they start to play uptight?
Sure. I just think that's a logical result, and I don't think necessarily does that have to do with coaches or players. That's got to do with us as humans. Mm-hmm. I just think the more you lose like that, it plays with your head. I mean, I've been there, and you can think all you want about the next time out you're going to win, but that little voice in the back of your head gets louder and louder. And I just think in some cases that's unavoidable. And I think it's a very fine line you walk with coaches and players to try to keep that behind you or away from you or out of your head as much as you can. But that's a tough chore.
Ricky, what's the worst losing streak you ever had to deal with?
Oh man, why would you ask me that? I really appreciate that, Paul. Thank you.
You send me the bill that you go when you go to therapy.
Well, I know that Craig and I appreciate you, Ricky. We appreciate you being a part of it. Thank you very much. We'll see you Saturday.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you, Ricky Thompson, former Baylor and NFL receiver Ricky Thompson, Baylor sideline radio analyst, with us on Wednesdays. Thanks to Alliance Banks. JJ Joe joins the show every Monday at 4:45.
Yeah, beggars can't be choosers. They just need to win a freaking game.
Yeah.
I mean, they just need to win a game and have people walk out of the stadium and actually be able to celebrate it and not be, nauseous over the latest way to find a way to lose a football game like they've managed to do for the last 6 consecutive. And he slightly misspoke there. The last win wasn't Tech, it was Oklahoma. Oklahoma,
back-to-back wins were nice, right?
You thought that they were really onto something there. They go and beat Tech out in Lubbock and beat them, was pretty badly, and then Tech, came back and made it somewhat close there at the end, and had a little, crack in the doorway, but Baylor shut that pretty quickly. But yeah, I mean, pretty much handled Tech, and then, came back and, beat an Oklahoma team that obviously was in the midst of reeling, but still, I mean, that's the last time you're going to play Oklahoma for some time. You got to beat them on your home field. You got to beat them 2 years in a row, and that was a good feeling. But then after that, all of it started sliding downhill, and it's been that way ever since. Ever since. They haven't won a game since the Oklahoma game, and, I do hesitate to attach that to this team because there's a bunch of freshmen playing and guys playing who that were not transfers that weren't a part of that team last year. So they didn't carry over these 4 losses. But if you're a fan and you're watching at home, you've watched 6 straight losses. Yeah. Doesn't matter how it was done. Doesn't matter who was on the team or not, or what the OC was or the DC, or any of the details don't really matter. Just you as a fan, you've seen 6 straight losses. And, you screw around, we're going to be coming up on like the 1-year anniversary of that pretty soon if you don't get your act together. So that will happen this weekend. There's no doubt about it. And we know the 0.001% chance that doesn't happen, well, then that's going to be one of the more interesting radio shows we ever do on a Monday, because that's going to change the entire thing. But I don't anticipate that for a single second. I think they'll come out and handle their business against a far inferior opponent, all due respect. And then, Big 12 play, we can revisit that when it arrives. And it certainly arrives in big fashion with Texas. But they just need to get a win, man. I mean, I think that would do a lot of good for this team.
Yeah, and someone on the chat room was asking about the Long Island game. And to kind of go back to history, Baylor had a home-and-home with Louisiana Tech. Would have been a really good home-and-home with Louisiana Tech. And Louisiana Tech found something better as far as for what they needed based on their scheduling and trying to get an extra home game. They found a home-and-home with Missouri, so that's why they dropped the Baylor series. And Baylor, late in the process, before the 2022 season, found Albany. They didn't want to have to play that game, or Long Island, but that's the history there, because what they have done with Utah and Brigham Young, and now Brigham Young a part of the Big 12, Utah about to be, Auburn and Oregon, is they have put together a really nice little non-conference schedule. Unfortunately, they had Texas State as part of that non-conference schedule this year too. When we come back, we've got a lot to get to.
We have 2 super chats.
Let's get them. Let's do them now. You want to? No, let's do them when we come back. We'll come back with a couple of super chats, and we do appreciate you every day. We're over 35,000 subscribers. Hit the like button when you can. Spread the word. We surely appreciate it. And this is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, they are the people that you can count on for great customer service, whether that be going to the dealership to get an oil change or to get another part of your car worked on, your tires perhaps, or whether that is going and looking for a pre-owned vehicle because of your budget, or you just would prefer to have a pre-owned car that's a little bit broken in already, a little bit cheaper, or if you're looking to go full meal deal and brand new 2023 model car, truck, or SUV, well, Richard Carr, they are the people you can count on, and they can hook you up in whatever category you're looking to take care of. Right now, there is a lot of construction over on Highway 6 in front of the dealership, so they're doing their best with their deals to make it worth your while to travel on over to the dealership. Right now, qualified buyers can save over $7,000 on new 2023 GMC Sierra 1500s, and you can get, for qualified buyers, 0.9% financing. They've got dozens of Sierras on the lot. They've got inventory. They've got the pricing, and they've got the financing to get you into a new GMC Sierra today. And if you're military or first responder, you can also save an additional $500. They've also got, amongst their various lineups, the Buicks, and right now, a perfect combination of first-class luxury and value like no other SUV. Ranked the #1 overall brand for new vehicle quality by J.D. Powers, Buick offers amazing value, and right now you can save $5,000 on a new full-size 2023 Buick Enclave, or save $4,000 on a 2023 midsize Buick Envision. Again, military and first responders can save an additional $500. So you get more into the details with the dealership, whether over the phone, in person, or online, as far as the pricing and discounts and things of that nature. But there's a couple of offers for you. And if you're not looking to buy new, as I mentioned earlier, they've got dozens of pre-owned cars and trucks in stock. Same thing with the financing there. They're looking for 100% credit approval, and they say yes when others say no. But if you're just looking to get your car worked on, not in the market to buy, just want to keep what you're in driving and keep that peace of mind of when you're in a sturdy vehicle that you're not always having issues with. You just want to feel good about what you're in. Well, their customer service department is award-winning and standing by to keep you on the road, and they cannot be beat on tires. So offering a price match guarantee on the lowest price comparable tires in town. Check out the service department today as well. So for 24 years in Central Texas, Richard Carr, run by proud Central Texans and proud Baylor Bears, wants to show you why they are the people that you can count on for your automotive needs. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
Cars priced right, day and night. At Richard Carr in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. At Richard Carr in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. At Richard Carr in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. At Richard Carr in Waco, Texas.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
It's another time to speak with Samantha Duvall from TexasBeefHouse.com, handles the marketing, and someone that you will talk to a lot when you do call for the great product of the Texas-raised Wagyu beef. It's college football season, tailgating, it's a big deal. People love to put beef and pork and chicken, etc. on the grill. Let me know what you have.
We've got everything. If you've got a morning game, you can get our breakfast sausage or our bacon. You can tailgate with some breakfast tacos. If you've got an afternoon or evening game, we of course got our hamburger patties. They're half-pound patties, 4 patties to a package, and we even have jalapeno and cheese patties. They're amazing. They'll blow your mind. Just that extra flavor, not too spicy. They have a high heat cheese so they don't melt on the grill, and our patties don't shrink up on the grill either. Anytime you order, use our code STICK'EM10 to get 10% off your order of $100 or more.
Where is the best beef in Texas? Your house. When you order from Texas Beef House, unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu from our pasture to your plate. That's Samantha Duvall, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, raise your cholesterol, and cause weight gain. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results. So if you're tired of being tired, call or go online at pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $165 a month, including lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, and follow-up visits, compared to $300 or more a month in Dallas or Austin. And you don't have to drive 90 miles one way or the other and fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T has board-certified physician consultations and will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone. Contact Petty Clinic Low T for increased energy, improvement in sexual desire and performance, mood, concentration, even a decrease in body and belly fat. Just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway, pettycliniclowt.com.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
We have some super chats to get to. Let's start with TJ Scott. Thank you, TJ. Let's ask this again, and in a super chat this time, how can the AAC and or the Mountain West become a Power 5 or autonomous conference? What do they have to do?
Okay, I've got an answer for this.
Thank you for the super chat.
Because
thank you, TJ.
The only way I see forward to them doing that, because the AAC, because Mike Oresco, God bless him forever, has been pounding the drum of Power 6 or whatever, and he's tried and tried and tried to get people to, on board with him. But it doesn't matter if the fans are all on board with him. He needs the other 5 conferences to say yes to it, which they have not. So the only way that I can think that it would work is that if Oregon State and Washington State win their lawsuit or whatever legal wrangling you want to call it against the Pac-12, where those 2 schools are in charge of the name, the branding, and everything that belongs to the Pac-12 since everyone else is leaving. So once all that stuff is distributed and whatever, they get to keep that. And then they go to the Mountain West and say, look, we're going to join you, but we're now the Pac-12. Gloria Navarez is in charge. We're the Pac-12. And then from whatever contracts that they have, because they met the standard of remaining the same size that they need to be to stay in the autonomous 5, then they kind of sneak in. But I don't think that if something's happened that would take them out of that they can just go to the other 4 and be like, okay, we've got 14 teams now. We're a Power 5 again. I don't know. But I think that's the only way that it can really happen.
Yeah, I don't think that there's no automatic you get it. It was, voted on and agreed to and, years ago put together. So I think, the only way that I know of would be to basically become the Pac-12 in name only and just, like you said, absorb their rights. So Oregon State and Washington State would have to just hold it together and then, whatever you do as far as the merger and all of those things that get figured out, that's the only way that I see, because I don't think that those involved are going to be like, you know what, let's open this up and let's trade the Pac for the AAC. Like, I think that's the last thing that they probably want to do, right, is just go welcome in a bunch of new teams. But, yeah, I mean, to me, to the best of my knowledge, I think that, the only likely way that happens is if you're still the Pac-12, even if it's just 2 of those same schools and all the rest are brand new additions. But that's something that does need to be figured out. And I don't know what a timeline on that would be, but obviously you've got to figure out the Pac situation first, which is what we're still in the midst of right now.
Well, I do hope for Washington State and Oregon State that they remain as a part of that. I know that they've done nothing wrong. I know that the teams in the Mountain West or the AAC would like to have a piece of that, and some are now enjoying that or are about to. I don't think anyone's going to want another. I'm just saying what, in my opinion, I don't think the powers that be are going to want another Power 5 or Autonomy 5 conference. It's one less one to deal with when it comes to the playoff. And that's not what I want. but that's just my opinion of probably what is more likely the case than others.
Yeah, I would like. It's not like they could do this, and if it wasn't already in a contract, be like, submit it. They'd have to do it and be like, you guys agreed to this before and didn't know it. We got you. We're a Power 5.
Yeah, it's not like there's a bar that you hit, and all of a sudden you automatically are qualified, or you're automatically that. So yeah, I don't think it's an interesting question though, because I think the autonomy thing gets very confusing for a lot of people. Like, how did you get it? How is it obtained in the first? All of that, and the important thing is having the voting rights and having that same type of power and acknowledgement as far as in the playoff and things like that. So it's definitely a big deal. And if somehow, Oregon State and Washington State are able to maintain that, I still wonder if, frankly, I don't know. We need somebody that knows that structure and how all of that works to explain it better. But I don't think there'll be any rush to now Tulane and everybody, this is the new Pac-12, and they're the same as the Big Ten and the Big 12 and the ACC and so on and so forth. I don't think it's going to be welcomed that way.
Matthew Nichols, same as a Tech fan, somehow still have 4 sellouts. I'm not sure exactly.
I think he's responding to Baylor's skid.
Okay, all right, yeah. And then H. Barfuckle.
Farkle.
Okay, just $5 super chat. What are you laughing at?
I don't think you know what you just said there.
$5 super chat to HB. Thank you very much.
Yeah, appreciate you, H. Barfarkle. And yeah, Tech fans are notoriously consistent as far as their, support of the program and all that. It helps to have a lot of folks. It helps to have a lot of folks out there. I'm not making excuses for anybody else. If that's a dunk on Baylor, then so be it. There is an apathy right now. There's not Joey McGuire, gung-ho, everybody, let's go all the time and all of that. It's very much just a kind of a flat line that beeps every once in a while, and you're just wondering if it's going to pick up pace or if it's just going to continue flatline. And that's just they're in a weird spot. They're just in a weird spot. I don't know how else to describe it any better. There's people that love Aranda, but people also love winning, and they need to see winning to contribute, to build facilities, to get excited about things. And there's just not an excitement there right now, but there is for Tech, even though that's been dampened just slightly with the couple of losses to start the year.
By the way, not Alan, it was somebody else in the chat room that said TV most likely decides the Power 5 from Justin R. So if the schools don't join the Pac-12, 60% of the current Power 5 schools would need to vote to say yes to agree for the AAC or Mountain West to become a power conference.
Yeah, and so I wouldn't expect that to happen because, that means that you've got to get all the schools that would never vote for anybody to become a power conference are not going to all of a sudden flip and become, benevolent all of a sudden. They're going to vote how they're going to vote, so it's going to be really tough to whip and rally those votes because, it's been like that for a reason. So the Pac-12 is going to have to, which would be Oregon State and Washington State, essentially add the Mountain West without saying that the Mountain West is adding them and make them the Pac-12. So the Mountain West would then have to agree to, hey, there's no exit fees or anything because there's not really an exit. We're just all going together and
you're morphing together. I think you should allow Navarez to be the one that runs that ship and ask George Kliavkoff to get the hell out of the way.
I don't think that that's going to be a problem, especially considering that the other day when they were in court and they wanted to know where George Kliavkoff was, he was
in Montana.
Pretending he was Kevin Costner. So.
Yeah, or Bill Jackson, perhaps that as well. I really do hope for those schools. I mentioned Oregon State and Washington State, and listen, I'd like to see the Big 12 have a great year. I don't know about great year, but good year. It's fun to watch the conference. We've seen it during their ups and the downs. But I hope the Pac-12 wreaks havoc, and I hope it's from Oregon State, Washington State, although I know Oregon and USC and UCLA and Colorado is great story. Not a fun story, it's a great story. And see what they do throughout the year. And Utah with the win against Baylor last week in Waco.
Yeah, it would be huge for them. That's the biggest win you could get if you're Washington State and Oregon State would be to somehow hold on to autonomy, to still have a place at the table, so to speak. I know there will be some number of people who listen to that and roll their eyes and go, well, it's already separate anyways, the SEC and the Big Ten. I know. But as far as like the voting rights and things like that, it is equal. The money doesn't come into play as far as having that autonomy. So that's the thing that, you're really hoping that can somehow work out in your favor if you're Oregon State and Washington State. But, we'll see how that goes. It seems very unlikely, though, and that would be not a death blow, but that would be another painful blow for both of those programs.
All right, 4:35 around the corner. We'll hear from Jed Drenning, West Virginia, and, of course, Pittsburgh coming up this weekend. Will be fun to watch and interesting as well. Hey, that pick'em on the chat room. You want to win a $100 gift card from TexasBeefHouse.com. Last week it was Paxton, the first week retired stockbroker. $100 gift card. The link that's in the chat room, we'll put it up again. Get on there. Yesterday was a little snafu with the Texas and Wyoming game. It is now live, so I was able to go in there. And if I can go into something technologically and get it done, you can too. So that's been fixed. We appreciate that. Let me see. What have we not crossed out? Craig, I think we've pretty much have touched on everybody in the Big 12 kind of bringing back last weekend, entering this weekend. Is there someone we have not really given much discussion for? BYU, yes.
BYU, we haven't talked about much at all, no. But they played pretty well through the first couple of games. I think their offense is still very much wait and see, but Keaton Slovis had, a nice enough game. I think that their defense is obviously, improved, and that's why they made the changes that they did towards the end of last year. But we're able to put some points on the board in week 2 and still, have only given up 16 points through these first 2 games. Now it's about to ramp up in a major way with KJ Jefferson in Arkansas. So I think this is the week where we'll learn a lot more about BYU. Sam Houston right out of the gates, that's always just a feisty program that I don't think you really want to play right necessarily game 1. But they handled that challenge, did what they are supposed to do against a team like Southern Utah in week 2, and now we'll really get to see. But so far so good. Still, but like every team though, it's I don't want to be saying this like after week 4 and week 5, because at that point we should know some things. But 2 weeks in, with non-con schedules being what they are, I do think it's still a little bit cloudy on just how good or where exactly some teams are fitting right now. And then let's see, who else have we maybe not given enough love to? We talked about Kansas. We talked about K-State handled their business against Troy. I think that we're kind of waiting for them. Missouri this weekend will be a nice little barometer test for them, but they're handling their business as you expected. Iowa State couldn't get the win over Iowa. That obviously was tough, even though they tried to make it very interesting there in the fourth quarter, but sort of what you expected. I think we've pretty much hit on everything from the bad losses to the good wins. And then, some of these like TCU beating Nichols, that doesn't really tell us anything. No. That's not anything to really bog down and dissect. So they needed to get a win. They got it. I do think Oklahoma State deserves a little bit more love, though. It's not been pretty. It's certainly been interesting. You may not have seen it, but folks, we've talked about time zones and TV networks and all that. I don't know if you really understand what we have in store with Big 12 After Dark. It was like 12:45, and it was like 7 minutes left in the third quarter, Arizona State and Oklahoma State the other night. Y'all didn't watch that, I'm guessing.
No. You know what? I was sound asleep.
It was like well past midnight, and the third quarter is halfway through, and I'm sitting there going, like, this is the future. This is what you're going to be watching games. So in theory, the Big 12 is going to be 11 a.m. till like 1-something a.m. on any given week, if there's a game out west. And that's what they wanted, and that's what they've got. So, you could you can structure the schedule to where you pretty much have games for 12 straight hours from this conference, which is going to be wild. And that was not a pretty game, but to go out, and beat a feisty team in Arizona State that had some cool uniforms and was wanting to play hard and all that, I thought that, they did it unorthodox, playing 3 quarterbacks. I don't know how long that's really going to last, divvying it up the way that they have been with Gundy, Rangel, and Bowman. But, they got a win, and they're 2-0, and that's a much better place than a lot of other Big 12 teams. So, the Pokes still don't know really what to expect, but they're 2-0 and have handled their business so far.
They took care of them. I know that there's 60-something of them. The Power 5, we were just talking about that with how the Mountain West or the AAC or Oregon State, Washington State beat a Power 5 school. Arizona State's a big boy school. They don't always act like it. They don't always have that success, but it's still a big boy school. and they won the game in a late-night game, as you mentioned. Could have been kind of a distraction or maybe even a trap.
Jaden Rashada, I mean, it was cool to see him, but, I mean, they were shut out in the second half. There's a lot to work on there still for Kenny Dillingham and company, but that was a good win for Oklahoma State. And there's some bad losses though. I mean, the Houston loss was horrific. UCF was nearly in that category and instead was able to pull that out. But the Baylor loss was bad. Iowa State losing, you would have, that would have been a big win for them. Even though last year they were able to get that win. But yeah, I'm excited to see another week of evidence to get a little bit of a clearer picture. But it's still very much Texas. And then K-State, and then maybe if you're in on Oklahoma, you'd put them, probably at number 3. And then after that, I mean, just place them, kind of where you want to. And I think you're going to be pretty close to reality.
When we come back, Jed Drenning on Pittsburgh and also West Virginia, great rivalry, and his thoughts about that one. This is 365 Sports, back in one moment. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. I just received the newest of the discounts and the offers, incentives, etc. for the month of September. In the Ram Power Days, why would you shop anywhere else for a Ram truck when you have Alan Samuels right here in Waco, the new 2023 1500 Lone Star 4x4 crew cab, $11,000 off MSRP, 2.9% for 72 months if you want that instead. 2023 1500 Laramie 4x4 crew cab, $12,500 off MSRP or 2.9% for 72 months. That is all at Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat on Loop 340 and east of 84 in Waco. The general manager, CEO, Ted Teague. Also the Jeep Adventures Days right now. 2023 models like the Grand Cherokee L, Renegade, Wrangler, and the Wrangler 4XE. Vehicles that bring power to plow through pretty much whatever you need to do. Whatever obstacle there is, they will help you out. Smooth, peaceful ride expect from a Jeep. SUVs are also known for their design, the technology, and the Grand Cherokee L brings you extended seating with a third row. Come by and look at them at Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
I hate my job, but I don't mind getting up in the morning. I dread each day, but I can't wait to get out of bed. You ask me why, and what I'll say to you is true. Well, you can get breakfast tacos at Rudy's Barbecue. Scrambled eggs and brisket, they ain't fooling around. Salsa drap, son, they're the best in town. Barbecue for breakfast, yes, it's true. Put a smile on your morning at Rudy's Barbecue. Next in line.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive is a premier elite life-changing experience where you can change your mind, body, and soul. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes every week, including boot camp, indoor cycling, bars, silver sneakers, and more. If you haven't been to Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness lately, you're missing out on the improvements. New flooring in the weight room floor and locker rooms, new paint and mirrors added to the weight room and group exercise room, and many new machines have been added and arriving constantly on the weight room floor. New free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, new ellipticals on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, Alex Box, and welcome to Nathan Roach, where you will be encouraged and motivated to grow. A kids club included with your membership, plus sauna, whirlpool, and tanning bed. 16 tennis courts plus a beautiful stadium court, and longtime youth tennis pro Britt Coleman and assistant junior Kenna. Adult tennis lessons and clinics with Blake, and the commitment to pickleball with 8 courts and instructor Jody Thurman. Visit the website at wacotennis.com or visit us at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
Jed Drenning, sideline reporter, West Virginia, covers the Mountaineers like a blanket and does it very, very well. Joins us on 365 Sports. Jed, the backyard brawl, what does this, you've been a part of it, can you kind of describe the rivalry?
Well, first, Smokey, I got to say thank you. You guys at 365 Sports for keeping me updated on all this Big 12 expansion craziness throughout the course of the summer. So you've been a big resource for that. So I appreciate that.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. But the backyard brawl, to us, we do view it as one of the best rivalries, maybe not just in college sports, but in all of sports. We think it extends beyond a regional flavor. It means a lot to the fans of West Virginia. It means a lot to all 6 Pitt fans. So we're very eager to get them back down here in Morgantown for the first time since 2011.
Did you say all 6 Pitt fans?
I did.
I love the sauce that you threw on that, Jed. This, the game last year was really good and really down to the wire and intense. Do you expect that again between these two teams? Because, a lot's been made of where they are. And West Virginia's got this really tough schedule to open up the year, maybe tougher than anyone in the country. But based on last year to this year, are these similar teams?
We've changed in different ways. I hope it's not like last year. I mean, it was a fun game for outsiders, but I'd like it to be decided before the end. I mean, we left it too much to chance, and Pitt made a play that we failed to make, and obviously found a way to win that football game, and it was a tough battle. But we're different. Pitt's different when I look at them structurally. But when you look at the things that they lost, I trust in their player development, and I trust in their coaching to compensate for those things. And they've tweaked some of what they're trying to do offensively. And when you look at us, I think we're a little different offensively in the sense that just starting at the quarterback position, there's a different element there in terms of actually playing 11-on-11 football where, in recent years, with JT and on back to Jared, it was more of a traditional air raid type attack with Neal. But now with the skill set of Garrett Green, or even Garrett Green and Nico, both kids in that room, it puts us in position to try and attack some different ways offensively. But you're going to have your challenges against these guys. There's no way to get around that. A lot of people are, I think, reading too much into the struggles they had last week from a pass protection standpoint against Cincinnati. I mean, you guys know probably already been in the league and not facing them yet. You've studied Cincinnati enough to know they're nasty at the point of attack. I mean, that defensive line is no joke. So that's a tall task for anybody. So I'm not going to read too much into that. And I think Pitt will probably do a good job addressing some of the shortcomings they had in trying to protect Phil Jurkovich last week. So we're going to have our hands full.
Jed, there was a lot of talk all offseason about that quarterback battle. You mentioned both Nico and Garrett Green obviously got the nod. Last week, big, time passing effort as far as the 4 touchdowns go. And, Penn State the week prior, it's a pretty significant start to the year. So what have you seen through these couple of games from Garrett Green's perspective, and what kind of growth have you seen from that spot?
Well, the two things he could always do, he always had the arm and the timing to throw the deep ball. He always had the explosiveness and the electricity and the twitch to be a difference maker with his legs, but he wasn't really the superintendent of the offense. And I think over the course of the offseason, that piece started to come into place as things started to slow down for him. And some of the production you saw, not just in the spring or even in the summer, but even into camp, some of the consistency that he started to develop in the throw game was really what he was lacking. Now he's working on becoming that guy that can kind of direct traffic, put folks in the right spot, get us in the best play, get us in the best protection. In other words, see it more globally, and I think that's what he's working towards. And then once he gets there, now you can just focus on the things that he's very good at. And what he's good at makes him a potentially very dynamic player. I mean, he's one of the faster kids on the offense. He's truly explosive. He truly has a heck of an arm, and his accuracy, I think, is underrated. So I think there's some exciting things that Garrett brings to the table.
Jed, is he one of those that's easy to get around or like follow because of his style and what looks like kind of a, I don't know about tough guy, but just somebody that plays with a reckless abandon?
Yeah, there's a grit to him. You remember Skylar Howard at West Virginia. Well, there was a grit to Skylar. I mean, I think Garrett is a very high-energy kid. So that does resonate with the locker room. I mean, those kids are picking up what he's putting down, and there's a certain electricity to him. Now, sometimes you get so amped up, you have to calm him down to start a game. Right? He's one of those kids. But yeah, he's an easy kid to get behind. He's an easy kid to cheer for. He's very deferential to his teammates. So, I mean, he's a guy that's been a leader for the better part of his athletic life. And I think now's his time, and it's starting to show in that locker room.
How far would this win go to relieving a little bit of the tension that exists around the program?
I think there's going to be tension. When you have the level of parity in the Big 12 that you have, you're never going to be able to rest easy or certainly rest on your laurels. You're only going to be good as your last game. And in this case, the next game is a critical non-conference game before we get into league play. So it could serve as a potential springboard, a massive win against our biggest rival to launch us into the league play. Looking forward next week to a Texas Tech team that we haven't beat since Moby Dick was a guppy. So I think it will be a very meaningful game, a very meaningful win. First of all, last year was the first time the game had been played since 2011. So Pitt won the game, so we still haven't won this game since 2011. The last time it was in Morgantown. So it's critical for a whole host of reasons. I mean, it's one of those deals where hotel rooms in Morgantown are going for $600 or $700. They've been talking about this for 18 months. So there is going to be an incredible atmosphere, an incredible electricity. It's going to be an incredible environment. And you want to satisfy those fans to have wanting more the following week.
So, I think when you see a big performance, especially early in the year, you acknowledge it, but you also look at like who it was against. But, I mean, my gosh, Hudson Clement against Duquesne had a monster day. I mean, 3 touchdowns, 177 yards. What can you tell us about him? And is this something that you expect him to remain a contributor and have performances, not like that necessarily, but to be a big factor moving forward?
I tell you what, if he has performances like that, we're going to win a whole lot of football games, right? But he's turned already into somewhat of a folk legend in West Virginia. I mean, you're talking about a kid that he's a Martinsburg, West Virginia high school product, a former Martinsburg Bulldog. And that program is very meaningful in the state. It's one of the better large class programs in West Virginia. And Hudson's a kid who in a state championship game actually accounted for 8 touchdowns. So he's a name that West Virginia gridiron fans recognize. So to have him develop the way he has, it's been a great story. I mean, first of all, he showed up at 170 pounds as a freshman. Now he's pushing 200. So Mike Joseph and the weight staff have done a great job with him. He's now developed into one of the faster kids on the team, probably one of the 5 fastest kids on the team, maybe our second fastest wideout. So what you see is what you get. I mean, that wasn't an aberration. And he found out right before kickoff that he was actually going to get the start. Devin Carter was nicked up later in the week in practice. He didn't appear to be full speed during pregame. So Neil said, hey, I'm not risking it. I'm going to keep you on the shelf, and I'm going to start Hudson. And that's how he found out. So not only did he get his first college start, but he got his first college start in this crazy environment where then, a quarter and a half later, you're sitting out nearly 2 hours of a lightning delay. So he had to manage that. So it was a lot to ask of him and to deliver the way that he did. And he really served as a critical spark for us coming out of that delay. So great story. And then, of course, he was awarded a scholarship literally in the locker room in front of the team when we came off the field. And it was one of the loudest roars I've ever heard in that locker room. So what a great moment. What a great memory. Now I do see him being part, because the coaches have talked about him since the spring. It's just been a function of he had to become more consistent. I do see him being a part of this rotation. He can play either outside receiver, either the X or the Z, so that gives him more chances to get on the field as well. So, yeah, he's going to be a part of what we do moving forward.
Jed, you mentioned Cincinnati and what they did to Pittsburgh. And, obviously Texas has the huge win in Tuscaloosa. What are your overall – have you had a chance to kind of just grasp what else is going on within the Big 12, or right now just focused in on the early part of the year for West Virginia?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to keep a picture, a view of it globally, Smoak. Yeah, to me, first of all, to go into Tuscaloosa and do what Texas did, it's difficult to say, but I got to give credit where credit's due. Now, is this truly something where Texas is trending toward, I'll use the B word here, being backed? Or are they going to show up against Wyoming and do what Texas teams the last 10 years would do? And that's not play well, have a hangover after a big win, have an emotional letdown. I mean, we're going to see. But can they maintain this level of play against lesser competition until they get back to some tougher games? But you have to be impressed by what they did marching into Alabama and doing that. But even when you look around the rest of the league, you're still keeping your eye on all the newcomers. UCF, so far so good, right, unscathed. Their run game looks pretty good. Looks like a handful there. Kansas continues to trend in the right direction. I mean, I think you can't say enough about – I think that Illinois defense is really nasty. And to carve it up the way that they did, and K-State looks like they haven't missed a beat. So, I mean, when you look at across some of the brands, it's really interesting. I think there's a lot of plot lines and a lot of things to follow, but there's some really, really good football being played in this league right now.
Thank you, Jed. We appreciate your time. Look forward to seeing you again soon. Jed Drenning, West Virginia football sideline reporter, but also so entrenched in covering the Mountaineers. We appreciate his time. Around the corner, he has the game with Houston and TCU this weekend in Houston, a Big 12 opener for both teams. Tim Brando, Fox Sports, is next on 365 Sports. Man, there's always something new going on at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness. I have mentioned many times the new pieces of equipment, but right now they're replacing all the air conditioning systems on the outside, up on the roof, and that was something that today, if you worked out inside the main room, you sweated because you were working out, but also because the air conditioner was not quite as good or full throttle because they were replacing so many of the units above. I walked outside in the back and just looked at what they have when it comes to the tennis academy. What Britt Coleman does with youth tennis, and also what Britt does with the youth tennis, Blake does with the adult tennis. And then, of course, pickleball with Jody Thurman. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco has expanded with what they have on the inside, but when you are someone that loves tennis or pickleball, they have what you need on the outside too. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
During Ram Power Days at Allen Samuels, shop our great selection of brand new Ram trucks designed to be durable, functional, and stylish. Allen Samuels in Waco is the place to shop Ram trucks. Come by and see our large selection today or browse online at allensamuelsdcj.com.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon wrap fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes. Cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links. Fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Chuck Verno, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Chuck Verno, 720 North 64th Street in Waco, 254-732-1161. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Brad Wilson. Investing his time and experience back to you and your money during today's changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
We will hear from Tim Brando, Fox Sports, here momentarily. TCU and Houston, his broadcast coming up this weekend to open up the Big 12. I had some college football nuggets in the blitz that I get, an email that I get with a couple of stats. We'll have a little bit of that in this hour as well. And we're now joined by Tim Brando, Fox Sports, with Craig and Paul, and I'm David Smoak. It has been far too long. You have been busy. And great to have you back on the show. How about this weekend? Good game, huh? TCU and Houston both need a win.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Can't wait. Spencer and I are pumped. It's a home game for him. He lives in nearby Sugar Land. And for me, I get to take the wife on a nice little 4-hour drive down to Houston. So that's always good after flying to the West Coast last week. And I'm going to be going back there. In fact, next week, I've got Big Ten Friday Night Lights, and I've got Saturday night Pac-12 After Dark again with USC and Arizona State in the desert. So Spence and I are going to do Let's Play 2 next week, one on FS1 and one on Fox, the late night tilt, the 9:30 Central Time start. And you know what? I can't wait to see Dillingham, the new coach at Arizona State. He was with Lanning over at Oregon as his offensive coordinator, did a great job at Auburn, you might recall, went with Bo Nix over to Oregon, and I think helped resuscitate Bo Nix's career, really. And I think he's going to do a bang-up job at Arizona State. That's where he's from. Went to school at Chaparral High there. Really great story to tell on him. He's barely he's maybe 31 or 2, and he looks like he's 21 or 22. So I look forward to seeing him again. But, yeah, this game – in Houston takes on a sort of a win-or-else mentality, I think, for the credibility of TCU and for the credibility of Dana Holgorsen and Houston, moving into the Big 12. I mean, after spotting Rice 28 points and losing to a team that they left the American Conference You think about Rice and where they are, and I know JT Daniels is playing on his 18th team, and he's a pretty good quarterback. But I don't suspect that they felt like their fan base or Tillman Fertitta, who is sort of the T. Boone Pickens of Houston football. I'm sure they did not take that loss too well to Rice last week. So this is a big game for Holgorsen, for Houston as a program, and I think for TCU in a lot of ways, because even though they looked a lot better, it was against Nicholls State, and that's not enough to get the Horned Frog fans back in good favor. So it's a huge game for both.
Tim, Texas had the tremendous win against Alabama, and that wasn't, fluky or anything. It was they went in and controlled the game at Bryant-Denny Stadium, as you know, maybe the toughest place to win when you're not Alabama in the country. What are your thoughts on what the future for the Longhorns might be?
Well, by the way, first, because they're non-conference right now, all right? They'll be an SEC team next year. Fellas, the last non-conference loss Alabama ever had in Tuscaloosa?
I don't.
Was it Florida?
No,
that's a non-conference.
No, non-conference. Non-conference.
Last
See. 2007, University of Louisiana, Monroe.
Oh,
Nick Saban's first year. Charlie Weatherby was coaching the Warhawks, and they went in there and got that win in 2007. And they had not lost a non-conference game since. So, I had to give – Terry Bowden, by the way, is 2-0. First time that's happened, in Monroe in a long time. So, wanted to take care of the alma mater while I was on with you.
Well,
but,
they should build –
that was a big win for Texas.
They should build Weatherby statue next to yours, Tim.
I tell you what, I hope Bowden gets a statue. And I think if he can get him to a bowl game, they may build him one. He certainly deserves it. He's doing it right and doing it with the lowest budget in Division I. So I wish him the best. But let me get to Texas, because I fell on the sword. If you guys have been keeping up with me, I said I was wrong.
Yep.
And I do believe that you have to say that when you miss. And I took a swing and a huge miss in calling Texas the Texas A&M of this year. I guess I got caught up in the we're back, thinking they would play as they had played in past big games under Sark, not to the best of their ability. And they played beyond that. And I think that it was no fluke. They were tossing Alabama's offensive line around like rag dolls. It was incredible to see a Saban coach team out physical that way. And they really were. I mean, when LSU went in there with Burrow and won in 2019, they out-schemed and out-skilled Alabama. Out-schemed and out-skilled. I didn't think that LSU was physically dominant in that game. Texas was physically dominant in this win against Alabama. The score really should have been worse than it was in many respects. So I'm a believer now in the Horns. Now it's up to them now to sustain a level of success. How do you handle a full cup of success? We'll soon find out, because, as you know, the schedule for Texas is going to pick up. They've got 4 games in the state of Texas, 3 of those games on the road against teams that have had a lot of success against them in the Big 12 in recent years. And I don't need to tell you, they're still the number 1 target for every team in the Big 12 that gets a chance to host them at home.
No doubt about it, Tim. And you got to see another one of the quote-unquote top-ranked, top contenders here, at least through 2 weeks, out in Los Angeles with USC. And as you mentioned, dispatched Stanford pretty quickly. There's a lot of talk about the defense looks improved. Obviously, the offense is pretty amazing when it's hitting full tilt. What are your thoughts on the Trojans and what you got to see up close?
Well, the offense is just an embarrassment of riches. I mean, I don't know that I've seen a better cast of wide receivers and quarterback since that 19 LSU team with Burrow and, Jamar Chase and Jefferson and all those guys that they had on that team that went into Austin and won early in the season. We went on to be an unbeaten and I think maybe one of the arguably best national championship teams that we've seen in the modern era of college football. USC's got all of that from a receiving standpoint. And they've also got two incredible young players on that offense. Zachariah Branch, who's the nephew of Cliff Branch, is incredible. He's already had a punt return for a touchdown. That was in our game, 75 yards. He took a kickoff back 96 yards in their opener against San Jose State. I mean, he's just – I mean, there are times on some of those special teams he looks like number 5. You know, he looks like Reggie Bush and the returns he made against Fresno State that night back in, I think it was 2005 or 2006. I mean, just an incredible talent. And then defensively, that's, again, a little bit like Texas. They've improved mightily on the defensive side. That might have been the best defense. Now, granted, Stanford's not that good. They're in transition. Troy Taylor just took the job. He's transitioning away from the West Coast offense of David Shaw's, but they're going to win some games, Stanford. They'll fare well, I think, when they go to the ACC. Their talent pool is not horrible. Emmitt Smith's son, EJ, plays for them, and he's good, probably has a future beyond college. But they were totally taken out of their game by players like Bear Alexander. This kid is about 6'1", goes about 310, 315, and he just occupied 2 or 3 people and enabled the linebackers to make plays. And that's another thing. A kid from Manny, Louisiana, Tackett Curtis is a stud outside linebacker, just flies around and makes plays. Played on a Class AA Power in Manny, Louisiana, and was a 3-time state champion. This defense is really good. They're not great, but they don't have to be great when you've got an unbelievable offense. I liken it a little bit to, the Saints when they won the Super Bowl. When you had the best offense in football, you only had to be the 11th best defense in the NFL to win it all. I don't think SC has to be elite on defense. They just need to be better. Mm-hmm. And they are a lot better. And I think that's true also with Texas. They missed some shots in that game with Alabama. They did. They could have scored more than they did. It's going to be interesting to see if USC and Texas, two teams that have, in my opinion, been classic underperformers, in the last handful of years, which one of those teams can sustain success through the course of the year. In the Pac-12, it's going to be really hard because that league is so good. Oregon State's really good, vastly underrated. I love what they're doing. Jonathan Smith's a hell of a coach. Oregon is really good. I'm not surprised that they beat Texas Tech. I thought they would. It was a close game. But as you know, they're going to have trouble with Texas Tech, I think. That Joey McGuire's team is the best winless team maybe in the country. I mean, they gave the Wyoming game away with a couple of botched field goal opportunities and really just kind of took the foot off the pedal after they got a nice lead, playing a tough team on the road like that. And then they lost to Oregon, I think a team that should be ranked in the top 10. The Pac-12's loaded, fellas. Utah seems to be just fine, thank you, without Cam Rising. Yep. When they get him back, look out. And Wazoo, with the incarnate word quarterback of yesteryear, is doing just fine as well, Cam Ward. So there are a lot of in Washington, I haven't even mentioned Penix. He's going to scorch Michigan State this weekend. I mean, that league it's incredible to think that the story of the college football season to this point is Colorado. Yep. Right? That's numero uno. And then what would follow Colorado? I would suggest the entire Pac-12. In a season when it's folding, they are challenging the SEC as potentially the best league top to bottom in America right now. I think the Big 12 is still very stable, and I think it's in good shape, but they've dropped some tough games here in the early going, and it's going to be a great race, I think. But right now, the Pac-12 is lights out. I mean, they really are.
Yeah, Tech and Baylor blew a tire the first week. It's Baylor's loss, and then, of course, had a chance, both of them, but they didn't handle it. You just got to win games like that. Tim, you mentioned Colorado, the numbers. Fox, the noon kickoff, I think, third consecutive week, the numbers they put up in the game with TCU, the numbers against Nebraska. It's phenomenal. A lot of people doubted Deion. I didn't know what they would do. I didn't know if they'd go 3-9 or they'd go 6-6. But my goodness, what a story!
Yeah, it is, and I've heard some of these rumblings, and I know you guys have too, And all you have to do is watch the analysts, the pundits on television on Saturdays, especially the old coaches, right? Yeah. They're the ones that are really doubting. Okay, Urban really is doubting. Dan Mullen, his old compatriot, from Mississippi State and Florida, now working over at ESPN, doubting. A lot of guys, they're just saying, you could tell that he's ruffling some feathers of some veteran coaches because he's making it look easy. I mean, it's not easy. We all know that. And the schedule will get tougher, no question. In defense of TCU, I think anyone that would have played Colorado week one without any film, without any knowledge of what Sean Lewis, their offensive coordinator, was going to run. And by the way, he is an unsung star coach in this scenario. We got to meet him when Kent State played Penn State a few years back, and he's up there. He's one of those real sharp young offensive minds. Would remind you a little bit of the Texas Tech OC and play caller that came over from Incarnate Word. I think these guys are really, really sharp, doing cutting edge stuff, And but Deion is saying and talking and walking to his own walk and talk, and he's backing it up, just as he did as a player. And I do think they're going to get 6 wins. I do. They'll get this one against Colorado State. That'll get them to 3. Now, the gauntlet will be difficult, okay? I mean, going to Oregon, UCLA, Utah, USC, these are tough teams that are down the pike on their schedule, and some of those games are road games. I think the Oregon game will be the first one on the road, not this Saturday, but next. And after that, I think that he'll get a bigger dose of what lies ahead. The depth factor, I think, will work against Colorado over the long haul and probably bring them down at or maybe just above 500. But hell, given that what we knew about Colorado and all of the doubting Thomases that were out there, I think if he goes 6-6 or better, he ought to be National Coach of the Year.
I agree.
I mean, he should.
Yeah.
And frankly, will have earned it. But you can hear now the buzz. And so, what are the doubting Thomases saying now? And you can see them on daytime cable right now. They're on those crap shows like First Take and the ones we have. I mean, First Things. You name those embrace debate shows that I don't like. All of them. What are they saying now? He'll leave after 2 years.
Right.
Oh, he's gone. He's going to go to the NFL. I guarantee you. Once these kids are gone, Deion's gone. It's like the denial is just incredible. I don't see that at all. I see Deion as a guy that wants to make history. I got to know him pretty well when we were at CBS together. He was working on the NFL Today. Spencer and I were together on the College Football Today. We went to dinner a couple of times. He's genuine. You may think his bravado, the whole Coach Prime thing, is an overdrive and that he sucks all the energy out of a room. Maybe he does, but that's not his fault. The media plays into that, and they just pile on and go for the ride. And I know it alienates and polarizes a lot of fans to some extent, but Deion he's just being who he is. And whether you like it or you don't, every reaction is going to be about 10 times what a reaction would normally be. So if you love him hard. If you hate him, you can't stand him, and you won't stop talking about it. But to think that this guy doesn't know what he's doing, or that he doesn't motivate and have all of his new players, and they're all new, buying in, you're out of your mind if you don't think so. He has an evangelical quality about him that the players really identify with. And once you get to know him and you understand, the bling and the bravado, the whole Prime deal, once you cut beneath all that, you'll see there's a great deal of substance. He's a man of tremendous substance, too.
My response to anybody who says he's going to leave in 2 years and go to the NFL would be
He's already said he doesn't want to go to the NFL.
Okay, so that decision comes in a couple years and he goes to the NFL or another program. That's coaching.
Right.
That's like how the whole profession works.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's almost like we're going to hold it against him more than we do anybody else.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, there's some. Listen, I've got family in Jackson. My son-in-law, believe it or not, this is true. I don't think anybody knows this story. On Barstool, when Deion, and that's the other thing, he's utilizing the internet, social media so well. While he was at Jackson State, they got all this pub, they being the institution, from his show on Barstool. And in one of those shows, you recall he was getting his surgery done. And that surgery, when they were basically amputating about half of his foot, the foot that had the turf toe that only got worse and worse and worse. But they had to make sure that they cleaned up that foot. My son-in-law is a plastic surgeon, and he was on duty and was actually the guy that was dressing up.
No kidding.
His foot. Yeah. They kept it very quiet because they didn't, the hospital at University of Mississippi Medical Center, UMC in Jackson, they everything was done. He got in through the back. He had an alias. No one knew except the ones that really mattered that Deion was actually in the hospital. But in the video, I could overhear my son-in-law, John Sullivan, who was actually doing that work. And he got to know him really well. And Deion was so good to all those people. And he didn't learn anything that I didn't already know. But in fact, I'm pretty sure Deion does not know that was my son-in-law. If I ever see him, I'll be able to tell him. I look forward to that day when it happens. But he's a really good guy. And to know him is to understand that. But with that, it's like anybody else that has a high opinion of themselves, a lot of people just aren't going to like that. He loves what he does. He's damn good at it. And some people can't stand other people having success. And he just loves that. He just loves that.
That's a great point. Yeah. That's a great point,
Yeah.
Craig.
Tim, I hate to go from such a good coaching story to one that's not so good, but I don't know when else to ask you here because you've already given us so much of your time. What are your thoughts on Mel Tucker and Michigan State and what's unfolded there here over these past few days?
Well, as you know, we were there a couple of weeks ago, week one. Spencer and I did that Friday game. I think I talked to you guys right before we went. Memory serves me. That might have been the last time we spoke. Mel, a lot like Deion in one way, completely different in terms of his personality, but in one way, he's a great leader. Full disclosure, I like him. Great leader of young men, stoic in approach, but still able to get the most out of the players that he brings in. It's one of the reasons why he did so well in the portal. Got the Walker kid from Wake Forest and rode him to an 11-win season, and then getting that new contract worth $9.5 million a year. But last year was tough. And now, you see what happened. And in the aftermath of just having been there and spoken to him preparatory to the game, it's really hard for me to fathom that he could have known what all had gone down through an investigation that had wrapped up on July 25th, or I believe that was the date, that the school had hired someone outside, as they always do, to conduct the investigation, that he had admitted to all the things he admitted to, which I found when I was reading it, guys, stunning, absolutely stunning, because just the admission itself of a coach that is a leader of men with all that responsibility, to admit to that in print and then to hear it. I mean, I cannot imagine, and this is just my opinion, I cannot imagine that he'll ever coach there again. I mean, that's just my opinion. I don't see it happening. But when you see and you read through it all and you get all that information, the advocate or activist, if you will, for rape victims, who was hired not only there but everywhere. Okay, this is a young lady that gets $10,000 from a school, goes in, speaks, and literally does it all across the country. And she was a victim in a story from years ago at Oregon State where multiple players allegedly gang raped her. For all of the conversation that went back and forth between those two, which I'm sure rang very similar to what you guys were hearing years ago there in Waco. Some of this story does remind us of a very dark period there at Baylor. But nothing as stunning individually on a domestic front with a coach who admittedly is married but is estranged from his wife and his kids. I've never seen anything this bizarre. But I would also suggest, based on her story and his, that it doesn't add up from her point of view either. And then what makes it worse is that the school, upon finding out and going about the business of having an independent counsel come in and do this investigation, they know all this, and yet it was kept private, and they would not have addressed it had not someone leaked it to USA Today. So they were willing to wait, actually schedule a quote-unquote hearing the week of an open date in October. The school, this is a school that just went through all kinds of post-Larry Nassar crap that, was well documented. Everyone around, not just the college world, but through the nation, was aware of what happened with this guy and with what happened at Michigan State as a result. And some of the people that were in the university system that were powerful from that period, that were able to hold on to their job, that survived that period, are still there. And yet they decided to keep this under wraps until they got to an open date. I mean, that's just bizarre to me. So I believe everyone here looks horrible.
Yep.
Everyone here looks culpable, horrible, and lacking leadership. It's just one of those incredibly bad stories that we see too often in intercollegiate athletics now, where on every front, the coach, the quote unquote advocate or plaintiff in this case, right? She'll be the plaintiff. So the defendant, the coach, the plaintiff, the activist, and the university look equally bad. Now, my question is going to be exactly what's in that morals clause at Michigan State, because I don't know that a crime here has been committed based on what we've read. But with a morals clause, you don't have to commit a crime. You just have to embarrass the university according to the verbiage that's within the contract. So that's where I feel he'll never coach there again. But whether Michigan State can get away with firing him for cause and not having to pay any of that $76 million that's left on his contract, I'm not so sure about that. They may have to strike some sort of accord.
Can you give me about us another 5 minutes or so? I do a little rapid fire from some questions from our chat room.
Sure. Absolutely.
Who are the top? Obviously, Texas right now is at the top of the Big 12 based on the win at Alabama. But who would you say would be second right now? Would it be Kansas State or somebody else?
In the Big 12, I'm going to say right now Kansas State. Yeah. Now we'll find out a lot more about them at Missouri this week. Okay, because Mizzou has not been terribly impressive at home, barely winning against inferior competition. And Drinkwitz needs to get a big win. And here's Kansas State, a ranked team, coming in to play them. This is a game that might, solidify his future as a coach at Missouri. So this is a quality. I think that the talent level at Missouri is pretty good. They return a lot of players, and they've recruited obviously very well with that new Missouri law that they've got in play. They've gotten some big time talent. This is kind of a game that he can hang his hat on a little bit moving into the SEC season. But yeah, I'd say probably Kansas State. I still believe Texas Tech has got a lot of juice for the remainder of this season. You guys would have to tell me more about Baylor than I know. I hate that Chapin's been in and out.
We can't.
But I also think TCU. Look, anybody was going to look bad against Colorado in their first game. Nobody had any film. I can't imagine that their defense is going to stay this bad for this long. And again, they've got an offense that's incredible. And I think that they can still turn it on and have a very good year. And whenever Oklahoma State is overlooked, they seemingly surprise people. So maybe Mike Gundy's got something going on that we're not privy to. But yeah, right now I'd say K-State.
Well, speaking of
the stiffest challenge.
Speaking of Oklahoma State, Phil in Oklahoma City saying, can you ask Tim to go call Mike Gundy, give him advice on who should be their quarterback number one?
I don't think Mike. I don't think Mike would listen to me, but at least he's got to go with somebody other than Spencer Sanders, right? He's holding the clipboard at Ole Miss right now. Well, that's a good question about them. But again, I'll say this. Oklahoma State fans expect to win, but I don't think that the pressure is ever really applied for them to have to win. And when that's the case, and for many years now, when the expectations have been high for Oklahoma State, they've fallen a little short. You know, like the year Baylor beat them in the Big 12 title game.
Yep.
That was the year you thought, you know what, they should do it here. And about every 8 years or so, 7-8 years during Gundy's regime, he's had shots at the biggest win ever at Oklahoma State. But when you overlook him and you're thinking, no, they're not going to be as much of a factor. And listen, count me in. I was overlooking Oklahoma State to some extent this year. You know, in preseason, I was talking Baylor, TCU, Kansas State, Texas, not Oklahoma State. So look out. They might be one of those sleeper teams out there.
All right, from Roger the Dodger, with 7 different USC scorers scoring in the first half, players, were you worried you would run out of cool nicknames for the guys who were scoring?
Okay, you see this? There's my depth chart. Let's just say I was running out of. I was like, wait a minute. Do I have them on this side? No, maybe I have to go to this side.
That's great.
It looked like an F paper, my board. They went 4 or 5 guys deep at just about every position. Listen, I'm telling you that if the Trojans defense shows up and plays at a high level again against Arizona State, then I'm going to be really interested in how they match up when they get on the field with teams like Oregon and other programs that I think are strong in the Pac-12. That Utah's had their number, and Utah's still pretty good without Cam Rising. So that'll be a fun game to watch. That's the one defense that seems to have solved USC somewhat, and I think the reason is their coordinator Morgan Scalley is a great defensive coordinator. But USC to me is right up there with Texas in terms of making my preseason prognostications look pretty weak. They're the goods. They're really good.
Tim had to have that flip card just right there to pull up and look at the roster. All right, 81. Boom, that's who that is. Yeah, that one. That one's the nightmare we've all gone through, Tim. I wanted to ask you about your opinion on Dabo Sweeney and the heat he got after the Clemson game. In that, in this modern era, he is dying on the hill of he's going to do it his way, which much respect to him if it works. The problem is that everyone else around you could not like it either, but they're doing it. Has he put Clemson behind the 8 ball?
A little bit. Mm-hmm. Little bit. He's been hard-headed about the portal. Really hard-headed, which is a shame because that's not the Dabo Sweeney I remember, who was, oh, shucks, let's go get us some boys, when he took over for Tommy Bowden. And, he created a culture of fun for football. When they built that new facility at Clemson, I remember going there after the year Deshaun Watson turned the tables and got that win on that little pick play to Renfro in the national championship. Of course, that was 2 years before they blew out Alabama and got their second title. But that's the thing, he built a culture of fun, and I thought his recruiting was thriving as a result of that. Okay, he put a wiffle ball facility outside for his team, put basically a Chuck E. Cheese in the facility for his team, and a barbershop, but all kinds of a sleep room, all these things to combat Nick Saban's Niagara Falls that he had put in at Alabama. And I remember going and spending time with him, and I'm like, who wouldn't want to play football? What youngster wouldn't want to come here and play football at Clemson? Well, times have changed now. Okay, you can take great credit for bringing in super recruits, and a lot of other teams can do that too. But in today's era of the transfer portal, there are going to be some areas where you lose some guys at positions where you need immediate help. And no matter how good of a job you've done, you can be top 10 in recruiting, top 15, which is pretty much where they've been the last few years after those runs of the top recruiting class or top 3 or 4. But there are going to be places where you need instant help through the portal. And by not going there, he's really hurt his team. And where did it show up first? I thought it showed up first at quarterback. It showed up first there. And basically, let me just say this. Saban, who looked a lot more like a guy that would adapt and shelve some of his O-line thinking, this year, for whatever reason, I don't know if he got pissed off because allegedly or reportedly, Drake May turned down $2 million in NIL money to stay at North Carolina. He didn't recruit anybody before the spring to come in the portal as a quarterback. And that's why he wound up with Buckner, the kid that couldn't start at Notre Dame, as his lone get to come in and compete with Milroe and Simpson, who, we're probably going to see all those guys play. So Saban has been less hard-headed, but I think his team is suffering, though, because of some mistakes by not going to the portal sooner that he made. But Dabo's he's playing the role of Kirby Smart, saying, my program's so good, I don't need anyone from the transfer portal. Well, you want to die on that vine, go right ahead. But people are passing you by. Notre Dame got Hartman, and I think they're capable of beating Ohio State next week. Okay, Sam Hartman could be the difference in Notre Dame beating Ohio State, who's struggling right now at quarterback in that game that they play at Notre Dame a week from Saturday. Imagine if Hartman had gone to Alabama or to Clemson rather than Notre Dame. These coaches that say one thing, and that's been the deal for me with Saban. Saban will tell you he's all for the NIL, all for the transfer portal, but this year, for the first time, he's been he's saying one thing, but you can tell with his body language he doesn't like it. He's pissed off. He's not happy. He probably should look in the mirror and find the enemy. It's him. Should have gotten a better quarterback, Nick. How could you not have an elite quarterback? And I would say the same thing to Dabo that I'm saying to Nick. How can you have a program that had the guys that you had during those championship runs and not have a quarterback, especially after you let one of them head to Oregon State? And he actually, he looks like he might take Jonathan Smith to the playoff.
Yeah.
He didn't quite get that done at Clemson. So anyway, I think Dabo is hurting himself, and I think Nick is hurting himself. Slow to change to the changing times. And as I said before about some of these old coaches that are, kind of throwing some dirt or some cold water on Deion's accomplishments. You better go grab that sailboat before it gets out to sea and bring it back into dock and start rethinking things. Because once it gets out there and players know that you're not looking to go to the portal at any point in time, they're going to dismiss you.
Tim,
they're going to dismiss you, and guys like Deion are going to flourish.
Absolutely. Tim, it's kind of a lighter schedule as far as the marquee games go. I mean, there's a couple, but it's obviously going to ramp up in a major way next week. But what are your thoughts on Tennessee, Florida? One of the great rivalries, a big SEC game, but Florida obviously not quite up to where Tennessee is at the moment. But what are your thoughts on this game and this matchup in particular?
Well, let's just begin by saying the SEC right now doesn't look like it's all that. How about that?
Yeah.
Because
fair.
in past years, a Tennessee-Florida game, even if both teams were just okay, that rivalry and the history of that rivalry would be such that game would be getting all kinds of pregame buzz, and it's getting very little. Okay, all they can talk about right now in the SEC is what the hell happened to Alabama. That's all they can talk about. And Georgia, because of their weak ass schedule, excuse me, but it is weak, right? They're like a non-entity in college football. No one's following Georgia because we haven't had a reason to follow them. They haven't played anybody. I mean, they're going to play South Carolina. I might, right now, I'd say the Georgia-South Carolina game has almost as much buzz as Tennessee-Florida, and that's never been the case in the past. So that's the thing that jumps out at me about Tennessee and Florida. Joe Milton, in my opinion, is not Hendon Hooker. I think this is a great opportunity for Florida, and I like their coach. I know the Gator fans don't like him. I like him. I think there's a chance that the Gators might get off the schneid in this rivalry and make a return. But the thing that just jumps out at me is how little buzz there is about this game that, of course, for years decided the East. And it was always played early. That game historically was always played early. You got more conversation about the way it used to be with you can't spell citrus without UT, can you? You can't. That's what you're hearing conversation about, not about, what's going down with these two coaches and their teams right now. It's more of a let's go back in time and remember the good old days with Steve Superior and Fat Phil. I mean, that's what you're hearing, and I have great respect for Philip Fulmer and for Steve Spurrier, but the currency of college football in the SEC has taken a dip. I'm not willing to say that they're not the best. Still think the SEC is the best, but ask me in a couple of weeks because they're teetering. Okay, the crown may be slipping a little bit because right now the Pac-12 is impressing. Listen, Arizona almost beat Mississippi State, and that would have made that league 20-0. 20-0 at the outset. Cal almost beat Auburn. Okay, it took a late touchdown for Auburn to win. So the times they are changing, and it's cyclical. And if no one wants to talk about anything except Saban right now. Oh my God, it's passed him by. No, it hasn't passed him by. It's just in the cycle. He's kind of going back in time. He's trying to win the way he won with McElroy at quarterback. Okay, you can't do that anymore. Okay, you got to score. Kiffin's gone. Sark is gone. And his offensive coordinator is running an offense with a running quarterback that doesn't appear like it's built for a running quarterback. So, after a while, once you've lost that many coordinators over a long period of time, two things happen. One, you lose consistency and stability. And two, you stop developing players. I think Alabama is not developing its talent the way it once did.
And some of them, because they've lost players that they would have been able to do that with, they're moving on to other people. Tim, one broadcast question, and I know we have taken too damn much of your time. Somebody asked, what's it like to hear CBS or watch CBS? You were there for a long time, broadcasting the Big Ten and the stinger that na-na-na, na-na-na-na, and now the change with that broadcast.
Look, that music, believe it or not, a little history on that music. That music was first used for a Super Bowl. The first one between the Cincinnati Bengals and the San Francisco 49ers played back in, what would that have been? Kenny Anderson was quarterbacking the Bengals. And, of course, Montana, I believe that might have been, Yeah,
it was.
That was used for that Super Bowl in Pontiac, Michigan, at the old Silverdome when those two teams played. What number Super Bowl that is escapes me for the moment, but that's where that music originally played, was on a Super Bowl game, and then it moved over to the CFA on CBS when Brent Musburger was doing the games. And I remember very well the first time I got to call a CBS game and I heard that music underneath me, how excited I got, how thrilled I was to be, to have my voice over that music. it brings back memories, obviously, of Vern and his great calls to everyone nationally. But just as a broadcaster, it meant so much to me to be able to have my voice at one point coming over that incredible music. I still think it's the best sports music for a selected sport.
I agree.
Seen on a regular basis in all of sports. I don't think any music has ever been any better than that particular music piece that you're talking about. And so it may be new to a lot of the audience in the Big Ten that's accustomed to it in the SEC, but trust me, it's made the rounds for many years before. You know, during basketball season, we at Fox, we play that old John Tesh theme music that NBC used on the NBA back in the 90s. And a lot of people are like, yeah. And I love that music for basketball. I just think it fits, you know, I really do. But trust me, get ready because CBS is going to have nothing but Big Ten next year. They still have the SEC for some of this season,
right.
But next year will be all Big Ten all the time from noon until midnight.
Tim, greatness. We appreciate it. Next week, I'm going to ask you about with your broadcast schedule, how often do you actually get to watch games around the country? Is that something you just get different feeds? We'll do that next week if you don't mind. Thank you so much for your time. Good luck with Houston and also TCU, and I'll be in touch about what we can do for next week, and thank you so much.
Okay, David. Great to be with all of you.
Tim Brando, Fox Sports, with us on 365 Sports.
Yeah, a lot of bases covered there. I did want to circle back to something that Paul brought up. I don't know if you guys saw it, but Joel Klatt talked about Deion in the NFL today and let it be known that Deion has told him, and I know everything changes. You say, I'll never do this, and you do it and all of that. But Deion, according to Joel Klatt, has said he's not interested in the NFL. He's not interested in coaching in the NFL. So, you know, of course, like I just said, that could maybe change down the line, but I don't know. He can't do exactly what he's doing now at the NFL level. No. I mean, so I think he's in a very good spot with the sport, the way that it's set up, the way that he likes to, you know, have control and have his imprints all over everything. I mean, the fact that they're just getting started. I mean, the fact that there's plenty of other jobs that will probably pursue him, and just, I mean, there's a lot out there to still conquer. He's had 2 games at Colorado.
Yep.
And it's crazy to see how much the fire's already grown. But, I mean, just imagine with more and more and more games what it could look like. But, yeah, according to Klatt, Deion, at least for right now, is not interested in the NFL. So that's one thing you can, you know, pencil out, not marker out, but pencil out.
I hope that's true. I think he's great for college football and what he's done in a short amount of time, even what he did at Jackson State. So thank you to Tim Brando. We spoke about, you know, the stinger, the CBS, da-na-na-na, na-na-na-na. Then there's that Monday Night Football. Remember the old dun-dun-dun-dun?
Yeah.
Wild World of Sports with the agony of defeat. Those are some of the great stingers. Some of you have brought that up in the chat room. That's a long segment, but hope you enjoyed it. It's been about 3 weeks since we had Tim on the show, and hope to have him on more often during the college football season.
Yeah.
Paul, you skeptical about Deion's NFL aspirations?
No, I think eventually, here's the thing. If the NFL wants you, they're going to get you more than likely.
Yeah.
And so if that comes for him, then we'll see. Right now, it's not even. There's no realistic thing. Now, I know that like the difference in the NFL is you have to work for an owner, and it's not just like, I would love to see Jerry and Deion in the same room, but if Jerry couldn't take Jimmy Johnson's ego, like, is he going to take Deion's? You know, so I think that's well off in the future for him, because I think he doesn't want to just go 7-5 and be like, look, I did it, and then go. I think he really wants to prove to people who said he couldn't do it. Now, look, I do think that this is the era. 5 years ago, if Deion Sanders wanted to do this, he would have been really constricted by the rules, because there are things that he wouldn't have half his team. Yeah, I mean, like he doesn't, and
he'd still have half the other team.
And he agrees with the new, especially with NIL. You know, like those are things that he really kind of holds dear about. Like, I'm going to make sure I promote these guys, as where that was an old guard college football thing of not doing. So he's here at the right time, and I think when you hear like Tim talking about like kind of the old fuddy-duddy coaches saying it's not going to work or this or that, like actually that is fear coming out, knowing that there was going to be someone who was going to take advantage of these rules in a way that no one else had thought of or could imagine. And I don't think any of us thought, like, 3-4 years ago that Deion Sanders is going to,
One of the things he was able to do is bring a lot of that with him. I mean, to bring Shedeur and Travis with him, Travis Hunter, that was like having two of the ultimate blue chips, although Shedeur has outdone more than I thought he was capable of doing so far in the first couple of weeks.
Yeah, no, he's been great. I mean, they still need to be able to, run the ball a bit better. Probably, we're going to see that at some point where they're going to, be in a situation where they're going to have to do that, prove that, what have you. But, I mean, they've been slinging it around like nobody's business. Sean Lewis has called great games. Shedeur's been great execution-wise. They've got a lot of fun weapons. And, they're exciting to watch. But I do think he's the right man at the right place at the right time, the right situation, the right rules in college football. And so, I just thought that was notable because he's right. The first thing everybody's going to do is like, well, the next big job that opens up, well, Deion's going to, he's going to be rumored for every Power 5, job that's above a certain level. But I think that Colorado is a great little spot for him to just build and kind of create his own thing. It doesn't appear the NFL, if they even had interest, is in the cards anytime soon.
Man, I tell you what, that was fun. Hope a lot of you responding to it. We appreciate him for all of the knowledge and the history along the way. When we come back, and his thoughts about some of the tougher decisions or the stories going on in college football, including Mel Tucker. When we come back, Paul Catalina's Top 5, and this is 365 Sports. PettyClinicLowT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man you want to be and used to be. And I say used to be because 1 out of every 3 to 4 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone. It happens as you age. It happens as you keep adding birthdays, which is a good thing, but there are 1 out of every 3 to 4 men that suffer from low testosterone that can increase or that can decrease your sex drive. It could create problems with ED. It could also hurt your sleep habits, and it also can become a problem when it comes to just your energy. And a lot of other things can be a part of that mix too. But low testosterone can do that. And it's 1 out of every 3 to 4 men. Maybe it's you. If you've had any of those symptoms, if you thought about it, go see your doctor and ask him about it. Or you could also contact PettyClinicLowT.com on the website and add in the top left corner, you have the number and there's an email address. Tell them I sent you. They will then set you up for the blood work. They will take care of that, setting you up of where to get your blood done and blood work drawn and also the appointment. Dr. Petty will get the results. He and his staff will get back in touch with you. If they see your testosterone level is too low, they can put you in a program to increase it and also help you get back your life of what you used to be. PettyClinicLowT.com.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected. Get involved. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
It's another time to speak with Samantha Duvall from TexasBeefHouse.com, handles the marketing and someone that you will talk to a lot when you do call for the great product of the Texas-raised Wagyu beef. It's college football season, tailgating, it's a big deal. People love to put beef and pork and chicken, etc. on the grill. Let me know what you have.
We've got everything. If you've got a morning game, you can get our breakfast sausage or our bacon. You can tailgate with some breakfast tacos. If you've got an afternoon or evening evening game. We, of course, got our hamburger patties. They're half-pound patties, 4 patties to a package. And we even have jalapeno and cheese patties. They're amazing. They'll blow your mind. Just that extra flavor, not too spicy. They have a high-heat cheese so they don't melt on the grill, and our patties don't shrink up on the grill either. Anytime you order, use our code STICK'EM10 to get 10% off your order of $100 or more.
Where is the best beef in Texas? Your house. When you order from Texas Beef House, unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu from our pasture to your plate. That's Samantha Duvall, TexasBeefHouse.com.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
It's time for Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Top 5 OCs on the rise after week 2. You can see some pretty exciting offense around the country, but these guys there's going to be some heat on these guys. And one of them I did not include was Garrett Riley, although I think through no fault of his own. I think that, Clemson calls you and says, come here, and then you get there and you're like, oh, well, I thought we had more wide receivers than this. Oops.
You think that's the issue?
I think that's a big issue. And Tim mentioned the quarterback. I think Cade Klubnik's probably fine, but
I mean, dude, he was getting booed pretty badly in the first half last week, and then had a much better second half. But that game did not start off very well. So he's very much a player who I think will be fine and is good. But there's definitely some doubts at the moment and a little bit of impatience as far as the standard and where they've been living now for a few games.
Yeah, well, because it's not just FSU. It's Miami and North Carolina. They're all good, too. There's people coming for the Tigers, for sure.
You cannot take Deion's "we're coming." You took part of the trademark.
I said that people are coming for it. Yeah. Did he trademark it? All right. Number 5, though, Ben Arbuckle at Wazoo. If you watch Wazoo's offense and what they're doing, it is really, really one of the guys actually Tim mentioned here. Nice synergy that we had. But Ben Arbuckle at Wazoo and what they're doing, he's on the rise. Zach Kitley, who did not make this list because he's been on like 4 of my other OC lists, is not there just because this is about the first couple weeks. And obviously Tech's offense the first couple weeks has not been what Zach Kitley wants. But Ben Arbuckle at Wazoo really doing a great job. They absolutely punched Wisconsin in the stomach last week. And I don't think that is something that happens to Wisconsin all that often, even on down years. Like they usually are kind of in control of things, but man, that was something else that Wazoo did the other night.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Kitley thing is something to just pay attention to because I do think there's a little bit of with the Texas Tech fan base. It's just not, and part of that's Shuck or whatever you want to point to, but it's not just lighting it up like you thought that it would, but it's still dangerous. And, yeah, he's got some of that to him coming over from Western Kentucky. And so it's an exciting offense. You add a player like Cam Ward who clearly fits it very well and can be super dynamic in that offense, and you have fireworks, and that's what we've seen. And I'm very excited to continue tracking Cam Ward because he's from Texas, and for these first 2 weeks, he's somebody that's in that upper tier, I would say, of guys from the state that I'm paying close attention to for the Earl Campbell Award.
Oh, yeah.
But, Shador, Quinn Ewers, he's got some big-time guys in front of him right now. But, yeah, I mean, they keep lighting it up. He's going to be hanging around that list for sure.
Number 4, Slade Nagel from Tulane. This was a guy who last week went toe-to-toe with Ole Miss without their starting quarterback. And Tulane was in that game, and they have been putting up numbers for the last couple of years. And look at him. Doesn't that look like a guy whose name is Slade Nagel?
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking Bubba, too, for a second there, but yeah, Slade works.
Slade Nagel. But he is a name on the rise as well for Willie Fritz there in the Green Wave. Really, I keep coming away impressed with what Tulane is doing. They play with guts, and Ole Miss, they probably weren't going to – that was going to be a tough one anyway, but – at no point were they were out of that game until, they put a little bit distance at the end. Ole Miss did, but they gave the Rebs all they wanted.
Yeah, they did. And they're just a good football team. Willie Fritz is a hell of a football coach and his staff.
Yeah, I mean, Louisiana guy, knows that place very well, that area very well. And, fun offense. I think Tulane, like you said, gave the Rebs all that they could handle. I was sitting there going like, well, I'm going to miss that pick. I thought for a second there that Tulane was going to win that football game, just couldn't muster up enough in the end. You give Kiffin and company credit. But, yeah, Tulane, been very cool to see the amount of time they've been spending in the spotlight as of late. Like some teams kind of come and go, but they've kind of carried over last year and remained very much in the talk of just college football. And with, him and is what they've got at the top, obviously, and their quarterback, too. So long as you keep him healthy, we're going to continue talking about Tulane.
Yeah. Number 3, Alex Atkins at FSU. I cannot tell you, if you were not an observer of Florida State, how bad from the third last year of Jimbo Fisher to the first year of Mike Norvell that Florida State's offensive line got. It was so bad. They could not luck their way into guys who could block. It was embarrassing. Alex Atkins has come in and completely flipped that on its ear. And not only that, Mike Norvell calls the plays, but Alex Atkins runs that offense, and it has been very impressive. He is a name on the rise. Watch out for Alex Atkins. The guy is a brilliant football coach. He can build an offensive line. He can build a system. They have got it going there. And Mike Norvell certainly deserves a lot of credit, but the biggest credit that you can give him right now in this offense is hiring a guy like Alex Atkins to help him fix the glaring weakness. They were getting guys who can run. Florida State's always going to have guys that can run. Quarterbacks are cyclical everywhere. The good coaches get the good quarterbacks, but they could not stand in front of somebody and keep them away from the skill players. Cam Akers can attest to that. He set some sort of record for like yards after getting hit in the backfield when he was at FSU. So Alex Atkins, another guy on the rise.
Yeah, another guy with ties back to Tulane and Willie Fritz from a few years ago. But, yeah, I've been very impressed with just FSU as a whole. Their offense is a lot of fun to watch. I remember when you were bemoaning the O-line and how bad it was. We were comparing it to Baylor, who had a very bad O-line, and trying to say, like, who's worse, like a competition that you don't really want to have. But I don't know what I expected of Norvell, and obviously the first couple of years were kind of I don't know, like you could see things that are good, but you don't know if like it's enough that's going to push it over the top. And man, they pushed it over the top, and they are set up very well right now across the board, and a lot of good coaches on that staff.
Yep. Number 2, Shannon Dawson at Miami. Tyler Van Dyke did not know his left from his right and which way was up last year because the offensive line was really bad. It was his third offensive coordinator in 3 years. And so knowing he was going to have a fourth one in 4 years, they were going to have to find somebody who is really good. They went and got Shannon Dawson. He was at Houston. And if you see what that offense has done the first 2 weeks against Miami of Ohio and then against A&M, who was supposed to be really good on defense, and Shannon Dawson and Tyler Van Dyke and everybody wearing green and orange and white carved them up.
Yep.
But Shannon Dawson's someone that people will be talking about as well, especially if the Canes' ascendancy continues. Tyler, Miami may not have him for more than a year because he has done that good of a job.
Yeah, he spent a lot of time at West Virginia. He's bounced around a little bit. When Nick Mullins had his big year at Southern Miss, he was the coach there as well. And then, as you mentioned, with Houston and Dana Holgorsen here as of late. So, been around, already had a lot of experiences. And I was shocked by last weekend. I was, man. I mean, I guess I underestimated the Canes, but, just didn't know. Hadn't really seen them. And I just thought A&M looked pretty sharp in week 1. Probably, way too over the top, and as far as how they looked or how I gave them too much credit for that opening game. But yeah, when that started to unfold last weekend, I was pretty surprised by that.
It happened in a hurry too.
They made A&M's probably strongest most confident position on the team as far as just what are you most confident in? The defense. That suddenly made that a little shakier than it's been for quite some time as well.
There are two things: the pick on the receiver falling down, and the kick return for a touchdown that just set that game on its ear.
Yeah, and he's got speed to work with too that Miami hasn't had in a couple of years, and that's scary, man. And because Miami is a place that collectively, when the city of Miami is excited about it, then the kids in Miami are excited about it, and then the great football players they have. And there's like three. If you asked people what 3 cities they'd like to recruit in, Miami would be on everybody's list.
Yeah.
Like if you only got 3 cities you could recruit in, you can pick 3. Miami is on everybody's list. Now the other 2 might be in question, but Miami for sure is on everybody's list.
What would that be? Los Angeles,
Houston,
New Orleans, Atlanta, Houston. Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be tough to do like a top 3.
Dallas,
and then somebody would do 7 and be like, do 3. That'd be really
Houston,
tough.
Houston would be
Houston
the school.
be above Dallas.
I mean, with all due respect, as far
for
as
sure.
just massive
Dallas,
Yeah, so you'd have to pick between those 3. But I guarantee you, if you gave them the list of the 10 cities, everybody would pick Miami. Number 1, Sean Lewis at Colorado. And look, somebody's going to try to wrestle him away from Deion. He was already a head coach at Kent State, so he knows how to. The questions about can he handle this administratively and blah, blah, like all those little things in the interview he can nail. Can he figure out an offense with a bunch of guys who haven't played together at all in a few months? Yeah, looks like he can do that too. So Sean Lewis is going to be a dude who is much, much sought after when the openings come about. And he is the guy who's everybody's talking about right now when it comes to scheme and offensive system. Yeah, they've got to run the ball better, but he has figured out a way without them being able to do that to win the first 2 games in Colorado's new tenure here. And he will be a hot name. Even if he says, you know what, no, I want to ride this out for a little while longer with Deion, it's only going to make people it's only going to make him want him more, I think.
I mean, yeah, he's still a young dude too. He's in his late 30s. So he's, a pup by coaching, standards in some ways. And yeah, I mean, they're electric on offense, and look back on it now, and I remember when it was announced that he was going to leave his head coaching position to take an offensive coordinator role, and you're like, what? Like, what? All right, you've been there a few years, but still, what? And, you don't come across those often, but, I mean, he's going to come across a whole bunch more, and, all due respect, a lot of them are going to be far bigger than Kent State. So I think he made the right choice. He's a national name, or is becoming one very quickly. And, that offense is something else to watch here through the first couple of weeks, and will continue to be with what they have at his disposal. So, yeah, absolutely a guy that's rocketing up the national interest list, and will be around for quite some time as far as, looking at coaches that are on the rise and who are going to be guys to look at in the future.
All right, Paul, again, there they are, the list: Washington State, Florida State,
Tulane,
Colorado, and Miami. Yep. There you go. All right. And someone mentioned, hey, don't forget about what the guys done at Rice with the nice win they had against Houston. Thank you very much.
That was a great win for Rice. I think it's a horrible loss for Houston, obviously. It was a great win for Rice. Fortunate to get up as big as they did, but, you got to force that and make that happen, and that played into their hands at the end there as it got too close for comfort. But, yeah, very good win for Rice, and congrats on grabbing the Bayou bucket there.
All right. Garrett Ross, thank you. Emery, Levi, Jack, everybody that's a sponsor. God, it's great to have us with who you are with us every single day, and you, the audience, who they are trying to reach, and so are we. Thank you so much for the chat room, the text line. Spread the word if you don't mind. We're right back at it tomorrow at 3. Paul's triple option at 1 until 2. And tonight, 10:30, it's 365 Sports tonight. Emery's working on that. 10:30 tonight on the CW. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak. I'm David Smoak. Have a great night.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you